Hulk Hogan that's talking about sort of both sides, right? He also like visited kids in the hospital and right, like did a lot of good things too, right? And him as this ambivalent character. But you will find people my age who are like, well, why are you acting like he's a fake Christian? David committed adultery, right? Defending him because he was their childhood hero, right? Like, don't say those things about Hulk Hogan, the Hulkster, you know. Oh, no. No, I do not wanna litigate that at all. I do not wanna litigate that at all anymore, okay? He doesn't have an entry in the Synaxarion. That's case closed for me, okay? All the other stuff is why, right? But if you really wanna know more about that, Samsonite, that's the name of the episode of Lord of Spirits, it's from years ago. And after it came out, people photoshopped fake icons of Samson at Uncut Mountain Supply to try to prove us wrong. They had AI write a fake akathis to Samson that's going around on the internet now. Like, it's impossible to do a good faith investigation of this on the internet now because of this crazy stuff people did. That's why I'm just tired of it. Okay. But if you want to hear about it, go listen to that Samsonite episode. I just wanted to make clear that I did not go on Alex's stream and say everyone who disagrees with me is gay. That is not true on any topic. Maybe one topic. Anyone who disagrees with me about being gay is gay. Otherwise, that is not a yes.
All right, but all right. See you later, Nikolai. Thanks for hopping on, man.
I mean, Nikolai has all the time in the world, but that guy's getting older.
This is true. Well, Nikolai's getting younger.
Yes.
All right. See you later, man.
All right. Hey, guys. Hey, folks. We got a caller. Happy. Sorry you had to wait. Can you hear me, Happy?
Hello there. Yes, I can hear you.
All right. How can I help you?
Well, I've been fathers for a while.
I'm sorry. Say again. You cut out for a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do I sound all right?
Yeah, you sound fine now. Yeah.
Cool. I've been reading the Church Fathers for a few years. I take it very seriously. I
Sure.
believe that the earliest consensus of the fathers has to be true. Would you say that's a principle that the Orthodox Church abides by?
I would say, generally speaking, yeah, we would hold to that. The consensus of the fathers is how we would go about it. The question is how does one determine consensus? So that would be where I'd say maybe there could be a disagreement, but go ahead.
Well, just the earliest consensus, because Vincent of Lerins, I hear that him being stressed a lot among the Orthodox, that they abide by that rule articulated by Vincent of Lerins, that whatever is earliest, you have to follow the 3 points, which would be antiquity, universality, and consensus. Have you heard that before?
I've generally heard that, yeah.
You don't think that it would be possible? Do you think it would be possible for the current Orthodox Church, or whatever the true church is, to contradict something that was universally held by the consensus of all the fathers for the first centuries of church history? Would it be possible for the current church to contradict something?
If the current church were to hold for example, pan-Orthodox synod and come to some sort of contradiction, then yes. But individual bishops can get things wrong, for example, right?
Right, but I'm not talking about individual bishops. I'm talking about the consensus. Certainly the consensus has way more authority than an individual bishop.
Sure, yeah. If you could show me a pan-Orthodox synod, then yes, that would be the consensus. That would be the highest level of consensus that the current Orthodox Church would use.
Well, I just want to read you real quick. There in paragraph 72, Vincent of Lerins says that they only quoted 10 church fathers at the Council of Ephesus, and they did need to do more because nobody in their right mind would would think that these were contradicting all the rest when they were the most reputable and revered fathers. He says, if you go and look up the church fathers' writings, he says they form, as it were, a consentient council of doctors, all receiving, holding, and handing on the same tradition or doctrine. So he's saying they are a council. You don't need a formal gathering, just their consensus is a consentient council. Anyway, you don't have to answer that. I'm just saying I'm seeing the church fathers agreeing. I'm wondering if the Orthodox would ever say it's possible for all the church fathers or the consensus of them from the most ancient times to be wrong about something. Do you know if the Orthodox Church has an official position on that?
We would say that again, guided the church fathers gathered together, guided by the Holy Spirit, can come to infallible declarations of the faith. So I guess, yeah.
All right. I appreciate that answer. I usually get an answer if I've ever asked a priest this, because I have spoken to some priests. They'll usually say, well, only the councils make dogmatic decrees. You wouldn't say that, would you? Would you agree there are definitely dogmas of the church that the whole church held before the first ecumenical council?
Well, of course, we go because we would say the ecumenical councils are reiterating or clarifying the faith once delivered to the apostles. So the councils are merely there to clarify doctrine. That's not to say that there wasn't already a established universal understanding of these things, right? So that's what I would say. But again, this is my gut reaction. So
That's what I've also read the fathers say. Like I was just reading Council of Trello, and they were saying, "We add nothing nor take away anything from the decrees of our fathers, nor do we have any such power." That's what they were saying. They were saying
yeah, yeah,
they're just confirming it. Well, I
yeah,
have some more philosophical questions for you because I
sure,
could show you some church fathers that I've been reading that seem to be contradicting the Orthodox Church. But I would like to ask you something about icon veneration. I want to understand the philosophy of it. Like, the honor paid to the image passes on to the prototype.
yeah,
And I know that many examples are always given by the Orthodox that it's clearly not a sin to bow down to somebody. We know that bowing down to, Abraham bows down to the sons of Heth, and he bows down to the visitors, the strangers. Lot bows down
hmm
to the strangers. Joseph's brothers bow down to him. And there's no indication that anybody's sinning when they're doing this.
yeah.
And we know, bowing down to kings, we know they bow down to kings of Israel. Esther bows down to Artaxerxes, and he's not even a believer. He's not even an Israelite. We would assume he probably worships false gods, but Esther did bow down to him. And I don't. How could that be a sin? I mean, when Mordecai refuses to bow down to Haman, who is a hater of the Jews, he wants to destroy the Jewish people. We know that's why Mordecai wouldn't bow to him. I think it would be absurd to say Esther's sinning by bowing down to the king. That's just how I feel about it. How
Yes.
could his niece be guilty of the very thing that he refuses to do and that he always taught her about?
Well,
So bowing,
we also see that Nebuchadnezzar offers a sacrifice to Daniel. So that's even higher than just bowing down. So
right. Yeah, that is. So the question I have then, I see, Joseph, according to Jewish tradition, it's not said in the scriptures, but according to Jewish tradition, when they give their longer midrashes and things, they say that Joseph bowed down to the Pharaoh. And just generally, in Jewish history, they don't think there's any problem with bowing to people. Even in the church fathers I'm reading, the ante-Nicene, post-Nicene, they don't have a problem with bowing down to kings. It seems just to be a normal thing. Like all kings require it. You go into the throne room, everybody bows, and it would be like a huge insult if you didn't. So my question is, if bowing to kings is okay and the honor paid to an image passes on to the prototype, what was the sin in bowing down to King Nebuchadnezzar's statue?
because it's the object in question. That's the problem. Because King Nebuchadnezzar's statue was honoring one himself as God, but also we would say that the gods of the other nations are demons, right?
But it was just an image of himself. It wasn't images of other gods. It was
Yeah, but
just his.
that would be like, okay, does Nebuchadnezzar at the time, the people of those various religions and pagan nations would have understood that the king oftentimes was an incarnation, literal uh, demigod or god incarnate. So that would be the problem. And it
I
was
see.
also it was also, I think, contextually, and this is just, again, I'm speculating a bit here because I'm not I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but I think contextually, Nebuchadnezzar said, "You must bow down only to me and no others." Right? It would have been something else if it would have been like,
No,
"Hey,
you're thinking of
um,
Darius. You're thinking of when Darius said, "You can only pray to me." But no, he didn't say that. Nebuchadnezzar just said, "Bow to my image." And he actually never said that he's God. It's never said in the text. But you're saying we should infer that he did consider himself to be God?
Well, yeah, I would say that it's a reasonable inference considering the surrounding pagan nations and their practices in comparison to the Jewish practice at the time.
But you wouldn't say that anybody thinks that they're God just from telling people to bow down to their living person in the throne room, would you? Like, you can bow down to the living King Nebuchadnezzar, and you don't have to automatically think he's God, just like you could bow down to Artaxerxes or Pharaoh or King David, and you don't think he's God, right? It's just a sign of respect?
It can be, but again, intent matters and also purpose matters.
I see. So it was the intent of the people. They considered him God, and that's why it was a sin.
Well, it would have been, well, not just that, but also honoring him above others, right? Like putting the honor of the king above the honoring of God, right? So
I see.
that's what, for example, the Pharisees try and get Jesus trapped with, right? They try and trap Jesus by saying, but we're only supposed to honor God, but you're supposed to be on. We also honor Caesar, and then Jesus says, "Give unto Caesar that which is Caesar's, give unto God that which is God." Right. So I think that is the fair way to approach that.
I see. So bowing down to King Nebuchadnezzar's living person is not a sin. Would you say it only becomes a sin if he calls himself God?
Well, Jose Miguel here says Daniel 3, Nebuchadnezzar required worship, not just bowing.
Do you think that's the answer then? Is that he commanded them to do it, and that's why it was a sin?
Yes, but I also think, again, it also matters about intent. So, for example, we even would hold this today that the reason, like, if a person, for example, were to treat icons in an inappropriate way, they would have to correct them. They would have to be corrected and repent of that. Like, there is strict ways in which one should approach an icon, and it definitely cannot fall into the uh, point of worship, right? So.
I see. So idolatry, you could take like a legitimate icon, and you're telling me an action that you perform against it could be idolatry?
For the individual, yes.
I see. But the icon itself wouldn't like become an idol.
Not necessarily.
I see. Was Nebuchadnezzar's image an idol?
I would say Nebuchadnezzar's image was an idol. Yes, if he was saying bow down to worship it, as Jose says here in the chat. If Daniel 3 is correct and he's requiring worship of it, worship can only go to God, right?
Well, he didn't say latria. He just said proskuneo. That's all that's in the text. Just bowing to it. So I'm trying to
No, because that can't be just bowing to it because they have to offer a sacrifice. They offer sacrifice to it.
No, nobody offers a sacrifice to it. That's not in the
Well,
text.
absolutely it is.
Where? Which verse?
What are you talking about? Nebuchadnezzar tries to sacrifice people in it. As a result, he tries to burn them.
It doesn't say that was a sacrifice. He said they died by burning. It never says anything about people needing to offer a sacrifice.
Whoa, hold on. What is burning in the context of bowing to something?
Well,
What else would it be?
if you're saying that Nebuchadnezzar is offering a sacrifice, that's one thing, although that's not in the text, but still, you started saying that the people were offering a sacrifice to it, and that's just not true. Nebuchadnezzar offering a sacrifice isn't the same as him requiring other people. What I'm wondering, though, is you're saying it's not a sin to bow down to a king. So let's say King Nebuchadnezzar stood up on a big pedestal and he said, "Hey, everybody, I'm not a god." Let's say hypothetically he said that. "I'm not a god, and you don't have to bow down to my image, but I'm just making an image so that you can see me when I'm not around. And if you want to bow down to my image when I'm not around, then you can do that, because the honor paid to the image passes to the prototype." Would it be a sin to bow down to his image then?
In that hypothetical, I suppose it wouldn't be.
Okay. It would not be a sin then. If he set up the great big golden statue and he says, "I'm not a god, and you don't have to bow down to me. You do have to bow down to me when you're in my presence, like everybody else does. But you can bow down to my image if you want." You're saying it would not be a sin if Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had bowed down to that big statue.
Well, no, it would have because of what he was demanding of them.
All right. So it is now, it is but I already told you that he's not demanding in this hypothetical. He said you can if you want to.
Well, yeah, but it's a ridiculous hypothetical where we have to operate within reality. What is the reality of the situation? The reality of the situation was that he was demanding these things of them.
Well, people oftentimes make sculptures and statues of things. Like, you talk about family members, people make pictures of family members, right? If somebody
Uh-huh.
makes a picture of you, or if you make a picture of yourself in your house and other people go and bow down to it, that Why are you saying that that's automatically a bad thing? Am I understanding you correctly?
I'm not saying it's automatically a bad thing. I say the purpose for which it is. So, for example, if my, for example, if my, let's say my wife has a family member that passes away, and we go down to their funeral, and they say, "Hey, we're going to bow down to this person and honor them." I'd be like, "Okay, yeah, sure, there's no problem with that." But if they were to say, "Hey, we have to offer up a lamb and sacrifice to this person because now they're an ancestral spirit god," right? And that's how we view those things. That's two very different things, because the bowing now is honoring um towards that purpose, right? It's directed towards a very different thing than so intent matters in sin. So, for example, also murder, right? Like killing matters in the context of intentionality, right? It's not murder if you're, like for in self-defense, right? So intentionality does matter when it comes to sin.
I see. You know, the whole origin of this phrase, "the honor paid to the image passes on to the prototype." It comes from Basil's statement where he says, "We speak of the image of a king." So he uses the analogy of people honoring the image of a king, and he is
Uh-huh.
talking even about bowing down to the image of a king. Do you believe he is endorsing the idea of bowing down to the image of a king? Or do you think Basil would
Yeah,
never bow down to
that's
the
the
image of a king?
well, Basil would have bowed down or been fine with bowing down to the emperor. Even the pagan emperors were given due honor and due diligence. If you read a lot of the saints, they would say that. They would say there's nothing wrong with bowing to the emperor, right?
Right, that's what we established in the beginning of this. So I don't know why you're being so harsh on Nebuchadnezzar, because he could have, in a hypothetical, I don't think it's too outlandish to say, like before he lost his mind, he could just be a normal king. He could make a statue of himself, and people could bow down to that image, just like you're saying you think Basil did, right?
He could have, but that again, we have to operate within the reality of what actually happened.
Well, I was hoping we could operate in a hypothetical because I want to understand the principle. I don't just want to look at what happened. I want to
Well, I think the
understand.
principle was already explicated. The principle is what is the intention behind it, and what are the actions that result in it, right?
So, hypothetically speaking, would it be okay for King Nebuchadnezzar to make a statue of himself just like emperors did? Constantine made statues of himself, and you're saying pagan emperors made it, and Christians historically, you're saying in your tradition, they have not had a problem with bowing down to the images of kings. Why couldn't King Nebuchadnezzar or Pharaoh or Artaxerxes make an image of themselves and people bow to that? Are you contradicting the principle that the honor paid to the image passes to the prototype? Are you saying there's
No,
something
I think
wrong with that?
no, I'm thinking I'm being entirely consistent. I'm simply saying that that's not what happened, but even if that were to be happen, it wouldn't necessarily be a problem. But that's the problem. The problem is that's not really what happened, right? So it's kind of
Wow, that was
so
very confusing.
Stephen K says Daniel 2:46 says that when he requires offerings and incense for Daniel implies he's assuming a high enough human can receive them.
I'm not sure what that has to do with what we're discussing. We're not discussing the incense thing, and the incense thing was completely separate. We're talking about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Not
Offerings and incense go together. That's part of a ritual, which would assume that they were offering sacrifice to these things, right, for Nebuchadnezzar.
but you're thinking of a different context. You're thinking of when Daniel was interpreting his dream for him. That was a completely separate situation from when
Is
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were being called to bow to the image. Daniel isn't even
yes.
mentioned in that section.
Yeah, but that's the point. It's kind of not. It's the intention is what changes, right?
So it is possible to bow down to it would be possible hypothetically to bow down to King Nebuchadnezzar's statue and to not be worshiping him as a god, but just to be bowing down to him as the king and giving him due reverence.
Not if the intent if the attention was already established. It's like, so
Which
for
intention?
if Nebuchadnezzar said, "Hey, this is just honoring my greatness for what I've done for this nation, and I want everyone to just give it a bow as you're passing by to
Mhm,
honor my memory," or something like that, and people go,
mhm,
"You know what? Nebuchadnezzar was a great guy. We're going to do that for him."
mhm.
That would be very different
That
than
would not be a
saying,
sin?
it would not be a sin, because the intention isn't for worship. The intention isn't for,
When you
um,
say worship, are you talking about latria? What do you mean when you say worship? I'm not sure what you mean by
I
that.
mean, worship, offering a sacrifice, because
Well
in the Old Testament, in order to worship something, you'd have to offer a sacrifice to it.
well,
An offering.
actually,
You'd have to give some sort of offering.
Well, if you'll remember, actually in Exodus, God says, "You shall neither bow down nor serve latria." So He says neither bowing down nor serving. It's both things. It's not just offering the sacrifice. Bowing
Yeah,
is part of worship. You're telling me I can bow down to idols?
it's part. The "and" implies that these things are happening in tandem.
I see.
It
So
wouldn't
just
say
to make sure,
"or."
let me recap what you said. You said it would be okay to bow down to His image as long as it's in passing, but you just can't offer sacrifices to it. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's about the heart posture. I don't know how many times I have to repeat myself. You keep on asking in circles. Like, can you get to the point that you're trying to
Yes,
say?
yes.
Like, what? Yeah.
So just to make sure I understand, so Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they could have bowed down to this thing because Nebuchadnezzar never said he was God in the text. It's not in the text anywhere. He just told people to. He made an image.
He demanded an offering, which we
No, he
established
didn't.
with
Where?
several.
Which verse?
All right, you know what? Get out of here. We'll take the next caller. If you're going to be dishonest and say, where did we say that? We literally offered 3 verses that showed that he actually was demanding offerings. If you're going to try and do these gotcha games, you're out of here. Get out of here. Jay White Hernandez, what's up?
Hey, am I in?
Yes, you're in. What's up, brother?
Oh, sweet. You're all right. No, just what do you call it? Yeah, I was just checking the text in the Septuagint and in the what do you call it, Masoretic.
Let me grab my Bible.
Yeah.
I was just doing it off memory, but I think my
Yeah.
memory was accurate. I do think that Nebuchadnezzar was demanding offerings and sacrifices and incense be offered up to his image, and that was the problem. That was that seemed to be the operative issue. So
Yeah, I don't see the incense, but he did demand worship. So the thing is, proskuneo can mean worship. Sometimes it just means to bow down. But the thing is, like in the Septuagint, it uses 2 words. So it uses pipto, which means literally to fall down, to bow, and then it also uses proskuneo on top. So if proskuneo was using the sense of bow, then the person would be saying bow, bow, or bow and bow, which is nonsensical. So proskuneo in that sense was meaning worship.
yeah,
So
I'm not gonna like here at the end of the day, the guy's probably gonna like clip it or something like that and say, oh, they contradict themselves. I don't think I contradicted myself. I was pretty sure I was pretty clear from the very beginning that it's about a heart disposition. That's half the problem, and then the second half of the problem is what is the intended purpose of the thing. So right, so if I see a image of a Hindu goddess and I just give it a little bit of a bow, but my heart isn't to worship it, it doesn't matter because the purpose has been set aside. It's been consecrated towards a specific purpose, and that would make it wrong. And then in the same way, it would be wrong to it would be wrong if something was set aside for God, but I was worshiping that specific thing, right? If I so for an icon, if I was worshiping an icon, which is my heart disposition was wrong, that would be equally as wrong.
Yeah, I just thinking of like in terms of keeping it simple. So like Jesus said, "Give to Caesar's what is Caesar's, what to God what is God's." I mean, you look at the Christian Roman Empire, people still venerated the image of the current emperor. That was a normal thing, and even in the if you're joining the army, you would swear fealty to an image of the emperor, which was so that swearing to fealty is transferred to the emperor in the person of the emperor himself. So this is not, the irony is Americans do this with, or even, evangelicals do this with the American flag. It's, they're not pledging their loyalty to a piece of cloth. They're pledging their loyalty to a specific institution of government. So,
So what I wanted for him to try and get to, but he wanted to try and do this weird gotcha where he just kept on talking in circles. I was like, dude, at some point I'm just frustrated. Like, you're not listening. You're not listening to my answers, and you're trying to get me to say something wrong so you can seize on it. What is your point?
Yeah.
Like, do you have a problem with icons? Okay, if that's the case, let's get to that point, right? What he's trying to do is he's trying to find an inconsistency with our view in how we interpret the scripture. So my guess is he wasn't actually pro or against icons. He's like, well, I read the church fathers and it seems pretty consistent with me. I'm like, and I really like them. And then when we point out that a lot of these church fathers were pro icon, like Basil and all these other things, he just kind of says, well, yeah, they say that, but what about this? What about this weird hypothetical where if Nebuchadnezzar didn't ask them to offer worship, You know what I mean? It's like that just doesn't follow. So it
Yep.
seems like a inconsistency there. So
And forgive a crying baby in the background if you can hear. She's supposed to go to sleep.
it's a little bit, but you can just mute if you're not talking. That's fine too. You can do whatever you want. It doesn't bother me.
Okay.
It might bother the chat, but I can't help that. For me,
True,
I
true.
know what it's like to have a kid.
Yep. No, it's very true. Now I have a couple, like I think it was a week ago. You know, I put out I run a Substack now, but I put out an article on iconoclasm, and specifically the relationship of iconoclasm with what people usually associate with Marxism, but the year zero mentality of everything going to year zero. Because when you look at, people think about the debates over the icons themselves when Leo the SORIN kicked off the first round of iconoclasm in the beginning of the 8th century. But the thing that's not focused on is the fact that he actually burned down the library of the Hagia Sophia, including all of the librarians inside of it. It was about 700,000 books that were in there that were destroyed, which is about 17 times the size of the burning of the Library of Alexandria. So it's the reason he did it too. The reason he gave was because when he constructed librarians to see if to prove his thesis that icons were not there from the beginning.
So maybe this is the same guy. Sorry, because keep that in your mind. Don't worry about worshiping an icon by mistake, dude. ? Then he tags me. What if you want to venerate an icon? Then just oops, you worship it by mistake. You can't oops and worship it by mistake because our definition of worship requires an offering, a sacrifice, right?
Yeah.
And so that's intentionality that goes beyond just a simple bow.
Yeah, we're not doing the Mexican folk religions where you're leaving food at the feet of a statue of the Virgin. That's that's where you could definitely make a case of worshiping in that case a statue, but that's full Catholicism of
someone said I was gonna write an article about the relationship between icon veneration and Gnosticism and how iconoclasm is just false. Iconoclasm is just false. I mean, I wouldn't disagree with that. I'm just joking, my guy. I'm EO. Oh, so you were just okay. I just wanted to. Sorry, dude. I don't always know. We're gonna take in a second caller at the same time here. S. Beeve. Do you have any? You said you want to talk about Ortho-bro drama. So, what's up?
Can you hear me? Okay.
I can. What's up?
Okay, so really quick before we get to that, I wanted to touch on what that guy was saying earlier. He tried kind of like detracting from the verse I stated. The point I was trying to make about Nebuchadnezzar requiring offerings for Daniel, it was not to say that, oh, oops, he just saw that Daniel's higher now, so
yeah.
It was the point that he already had that form of like heart posture towards if someone is in some way, higher in some sense, right? He's a king. Why would he not require sacrifice and incense for himself, but also require it for Daniel? It's that presupposition that he had going into it of, oh, well, this is just a thing. He already understood that this is a form of worship. And when he tells people to, worship before his image, the statue, that was more so what I was getting at. But the Ortho-bro drama, I had more of a question. I wasn't sure if you were going to be comfortable talking about this on this stream, but
we can.
In terms of like, are you familiar with Jay at all? Jay Dyer?
Yep, I'm very familiar with Jay.
Yeah,
met him in person.
That's
I've met his priest.
That's awesome. So like he constantly has people like chastising him for, oh, Jay, you're so mean, you're so rude. I wanted to touch on what exactly is the line for, hey, this is a little bit too mean, how dare you say the truth, because that cuts hard.
I would say there's two metrics.
Okay.
The first metric is, are you it's kind of like with a child. If you're punishing a child, right? It's a child is getting a spanking or something like that. Are you doing it dispassionately? right? Are you doing it out of anger or vindictiveness or nastiness towards that person? Or are you just like, are you just ribbing somebody and there's no malice
Yeah.
behind it, right? That's the first
Yeah.
thing. But that's personal. That's in the heart. So you can't really interpret that externally, right?
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is, I would say that when it goes too far is when it contradicts the way in which your priest expects you to behave. And so in that level, your
Mhm.
priest is the one that is setting up the guardrails for your interpersonal interactions with people, and by extension, your bishop. So if Jay's bishop and priest do not have any problem with him doing that, okay. And
Yeah,
if you
that's
do,
fair.
if you have a problem with the way that Jay is interacting with people,
Oh
then
no, I
you,
don't.
not you. I'm just saying you,
Oh.
as in like this generic
Yeah.
sense of you. If you, XYZ person who's criticizing Jay, have a problem with Jay, then the solution is to how do you say, the solution is go to his priest. You know?
Yeah.
And Jay doesn't hide who his priest is. That's another thing, is that like this is why it's very important that, you know, public apologists who are laypersons in the Orthodox Church,
Mhm.
we should be held accountable by our priests. I
Yeah.
see no problem with that. So does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It's kind of attached to that because you mentioned like the dispassionate part of it. Um, I guess. Sorry, I'm trying to formulate the question right off the top of my head, but um, you know, that zeal for the Lord, right? Like,
Mhm.
I'll give you an example really quick. I was hearing this person blatantly lie to me about the situation that I already knew about, like firsthand. He didn't know I knew about it, but
Yeah.
he was using God in this flippant way of just, you know, being able to justify whatever he's saying. And I wanted so badly to just shut him down, but I couldn't I couldn't speak in the moment because I knew I was just not going to say anything like, I don't want to say kind. I mean, it
Mhm.
doesn't need to be kind, but it was going to be a little too harsh. At least by my own preconceived notion. What do you say in regards to that specifically of like, how do you how do you handle that when someone is blatantly, um, I guess, blaspheming?
You know this person?
Yes, very closely. Family member.
Well, okay, there's two things that, and this is the same thing, this is the same advice Jay and many people make. You're never going to be able to argue somebody into the faith.
100%. Yeah.
Especially if they're close family members, because it's just there's too much interpersonal connection. Obviously, there's exceptions to the rule. I'm not saying that, but generally speaking, I think it's unadvisable to like get into a heated debate with somebody about that. Now, what I will say, is that the um, anti-Nicene, or the people in question, the person that you're interacting with, um, you every time you interact with somebody, whether it's positive or negative, you should be praying actively, but also after the conversation, be praying for them. The
Mhm.
best way to keep yourself dispassionate is to show the love of Christ for them, and that's by praying for them,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
Keep them in your prayer life.
Yeah.
And if someone is blaspheming the Lord, they need those prayers even more so than ever.
Yeah.
And
100%.
so, as a result, that's how I would do it. Is that if that is the case? The second thing that I would just mention, and I think this is a really important, um, thing to keep in mind, is that our family members, and by extension, a lot of them are doing so out of a genuine concern for you. Like, this is blasphemous, but they're doing it because they actually think that this is a danger to my soul or something like that, right?
Yeah. I more so meant like, w- it's hard to explain without getting into detail, but I'm not going to take up the entire stream. But
Yeah.
basically, in terms of blaspheming, I mean, like, okay, I blatantly tell you like something that I don't think that you know is false. I'm just blatantly lying, twisting the story, right?
Yeah.
And then
They're misrepresenting your view.
yeah, and then in the next sentence they'll be like, "'Cause this is what God wants for me," or "This is what God wants for."
So they're
Like,
they're guising their criticism in
yeah,
that this is a godly thing to do, right? Yeah, I get what you're saying.
it's been essentially like I guess you could say like almost piety signaling, or like some form of prelest.
Yeah, no, I've experienced that myself. I've seen that happen even myself. I guess the big thing that I would say as a result is that you simply have to wash your hands of it,
Mm, mhm.
which means that dust off your pants and move on, right? And by that I mean don't abandon the relationship, but just abandon that aspect of engagement, because what's going to end up happening is that it's going to strain the relationship. And the best thing you can do, like I said, is just pray for them.
Yeah.
Pray for them actively and sincerely, and also demonstrate the fruits in your life. You got to demonstrate those fruits.
Mhm.
Otherwise, they're just going to see you as a hypocrite. Some
Yeah.
people, I know a lot of people that had spouses that converted to Orthodoxy after they saw the change in the person that they loved's life. And if they truly care about you, then that's what they'll do, right? So,
Yeah, I mean, sorry, one last question.
go
It's
ahead.
in regards to what you just said, but
Mhm.
you said I agree 100%. This is not me disagreeing, but
Sure.
it seems to me like it's pretty difficult to, I guess, reflect orthodoxy well, in the sense of like we expect them to kind of catch on to these fruits if they're truly there, but what if they value something else as, for like, let's say someone values, I guess, financial success as like, this is what a man should be, right?
Yeah, if they have a disordered understanding of spiritual fruits and things like that, then at some point, you know, God's got to work in their heart. God's got to soften their hearts in on that level. He's got to illuminate them. And so this is where again your prayers are so necessary.
Yeah.
So yeah, at the end of the day, that's what you got to do, man. You just got to pray hard for these people, and we're called to, right? And it will be good spiritual discipline for yourself. You'll see a lot of spiritual fruit by you um, basically taking a little bit of a beating and just taking those whips, right? And I
Yeah.
think that that's the best advice I can get you. Now, someone did respond. I think this is the guy. He said, "Yes, it is clipped, the interaction I had with him on Nebuchadnezzar. The Orthodox claim to be experts on what truly constitutes as idolatry, and then they admit that they would worship Nebuchadnezzar's statue." Literally did not say worship. Like, quite literally said the opposite. I said,
Yeah.
if your disposition in your heart is not to worship the statue, and Nebuchadnezzar's intention is not for people to worship it, then how can it be worship?
Very legalistic.
It can only be worship if it's set aside for the intended purpose of worship by Nebuchadnezzar, or it's not set aside by Nebuchadnezzar for worship, but you, in the disposition of your heart, worship it. If it doesn't meet those two criteria, then it's not worship. And therefore, just giving a bow to the leader of a nation, for example, the living leader of a nation, bowing or kissing their ring or kissing their hand as they pass by, or giving them a curtsy, those could all be interpreted as worship as a result then, which would, of course, be a ridiculous standard to hold. So
Mhm.
I don't even understand how this is even a thing. Then we also got Kaiser Collins just became a member. Thank you for becoming a member. Every little bit does count, and it helps immensely. Sincerely, guys, it is very much appreciated. Nick Flip says, "Why can't we give homage, honor, and respect to those who live their life who've lived the life of Christ. Well, St. Paul tells us to, so we absolutely can.
Even the command to, what do you call it, honor one's father and mother, that doesn't just apply to one's physical father and mother, that also applies to your fathers and mothers in the faith.
Yeah, precisely. Well, because St. Paul tells Timothy, I am a father to you in the faith, right? He uses the title father, right? Which I think is a huge problem for people that interpret those things as dishonestly as possible. That being said, we have here Ruslan responded to me. Well, not kind of responded. So Christian King said, Jay Dyer really out here acting tough. Shout out. He says, there are not a single Protestant apologist with the fortitude to actually formally debate their position. They're all massive cowards. And then someone says, is Christian King TV not Protestant? Not really. He's evangelical. He doesn't have a church, dude. He's a churchless goober who tells you to just like worship a generic understanding of God. And then you have Ruslan that says there's a half a dozen people ready and willing to debate him, including you. The cope intensifies. Who are those half dozen people that are actually Protestant that will actually state what their position is and defend their position and not just make this an interrogation? So I want to be clear. An interrogation is not a debate, guys. An interrogation is I get to question your beliefs and keep on interrogating you about what you believe, and I never have to defend myself.
Right. That would only be cross-exam, and that's only half of it, because then you get cross-examined, right?
Exactly. You both get to cross-examine each other's view on a specific topic. That is what a debate is, right? You give your position, they give their position. Then you do counter. And so formal debates have a structure to them, guys. Christian King is a nobody and a goober who has all sorts of, in my opinion, blasphemous thumbnails on his channel. He spends 40, 50 hours a week streaming. Okay? The guy has no life. Okay? And so as a result, no one has because he's immensely small. The only reason he's been heard of is because he's related to JP Uncut and some of those other guys who have been talking a big game recently. And I just responded and said, Christian King is in good faith. And then the guy, this Armored Saint says, the irony, Jay is the furthest thing from good faith debater. Every single person who has had a formal sit-down debate with Jay has no problems with Jay.
Well, I mean...
Timothy Gordon.
Yeah.
So saying he's not good faith is just dishonest. And then Ruslan says, they really don't get it. As if like, I just can't believe they don't get it.
He debated Jay, though, on his own podcast, and it went, like, very chill.
It went very well. It was more of like an interview style thing because, again, he's just hosting and he's asking questions. But, yeah, I mean, he like, Ruslan knows that this is not true. He knows this. The reason Ruslan is upset is because Jay is calling out Ruslan and his ecumenist tendencies and his tendencies to avoid all of these issues. Again, Ruslan went and spoke at a synagogue and advocates and thinks that it's cool. Like, oh yeah, these guys love Jesus too, so you can go to the synagogue.
Like messianic kind of thing?
Yes.
Oh, wow. All right.
So, Jorge Thomas says, I find it funny when people try and tell the Father, tell the Father, God bless you, like, bro, he's the one blessing. Yeah, I know. You're technically not supposed to say God bless you to clergy because they're supposed to be blessing you, but I just do it out of instinct. And so sometimes I even thought about that as I was leaving. I shouldn't have said that because Father Stephen was there. But normally it's just me and Alex, so I just out of instinct said, God bless you, Alex. You know what I mean? So yeah, it is funny that you're not technically supposed to do that just so people are aware. Like, so everyone is aware. Yes, you're not supposed to do that technically. So let's see here. I think Alex is wrapping up his stream now. Let's see. Because I was going to review this, the one that Alex was originally going to review, but then he decided to review the other one. But we'll see if He's gonna go an extra 3 hours, and he said, "I'm only gonna do 3 hours today, guys." And now he's at 6 hours, guys. This is why I can never plan. People always say, "Why do you always stream at the same time as Alex or Cleve?" Because the guys say they're only gonna do 2 or 3 hours, and then they end up doing 6 hours of streaming.
Essentially,
why, guys.
this is why we need like our own channel where just everyone takes shifts, and you just roll one group in, everybody into the next group. That's yeah, man. Fundamentally, though, what underlies the stuff with Ruslan, it really is about money. As Father Stephen DeYoung mentioned, the only check within evangelicalism is money, but also the only incentive is money too. So ironically, the money is leading them to their own destruction.
It's actually very tragic. Yeah. The Holy Kaiser, what's up?
Hey, it's Tim. We talked earlier today on Alex Sorin's show, as a matter of fact.
Tim. Hey, Tim. How are you doing, man?
You can't see my face. I'm doing pretty good. I was actually going to touch. I actually was curious. So I had this when all the Ortho-bro stuff started coming up. I thought it was probably the funniest shit I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
Mainly because, so I'm a Marine, so I'm retired from the Marine Corps. I want to express my condolences because I too look like a small child. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's good. Once your hair turns gray, it's an absolute win. But until then, you're just stuck looking like a child.
I got the pepper going on the side so far. It's starting to come through. And on my arm, actually, it's funny. I have a ton of white hairs all over my arm. I have like long arm hair, and it's all like there's like you can see these just blatantly white pieces coming out here and there. I'm turning into my grandfather in real time because my grandfather was the exact same way. He had black or brown hair, and my dad black and brown hair, and they both went full white, pepper and full white. So I was like, that's going to be me. It's going to just go through. And that's the only way that people are going to tell that I'm aged, because my dad still looks really young for his age. He's the age of Father Stephen, and he looks at least 10, 15 years younger.
Both my grandmother and my mother, they thought my mother was my sister most of my life. And even now, like, people are like, oh, she looks older. I'm like, yeah, but she doesn't look 60. She looks 40. So what I was going to say, fun fact about that too, is, you're going to get old. Obviously, what I was going to say is that I have the negative that I joke with women all the time. They say, oh, they're mean to you because you're a woman. I said, oh, you ever think it's just because you look really young? Because I was like an expert in a field. I said, but I look like I'm 15. So they're like,
yeah,
hey,
I mean, I'm 30. Guys, I'm 32. Okay, I know. I'm 32, and the amount of people that are like flabbergasted that I have a 10-year-old daughter, 11-year-old.
Well, you're in the Air Force. So what are you gonna do?
I was Air Force, yes, but at least we don't
gotta
eat
have
grants.
kids young. No, I'm just saying it's kind of a small blessing that the military does grant in a way. Is
you tend to have children pretty young, yeah.
Yeah, people have normal families. For all the flaws the military has, the fact that it kind of promotes adultery still legal in the Marine Corps and the Air Force and everywhere else. So no one ever gets enforced on it, but hey, it's a law.
Technically illegal to have an affair while you're married. Yes,
I've never seen one charged with it.
Never. It's only no. I've seen it charged only when it's super egregious thing, like fraternization, where because there was this case that happened on my. There was this time that it happened on my base that I was at Osan Air Force Base in Korea. And there was a scandal where a colonel and a captain were exchanging wives.
What?
Then they drug out. Yes, they were exchanging wives. And I think it was actually 4 people, all rotating, including some upper enlisted guys. And so what they did is they hit them with fraternization. That's the first thing. But then they also hit them with the adultery thing. So there was a double whammy for them. So yes, but only when it's super scandalous and super,
I've heard, believe it or not. So we had an incident where we came back and someone had started for lack of a better word, a whorehouse.
Oh yeah,
that was an interesting event, and that was in Hawaii. And Hawaii's prostitution's so bad there. If you're ever out there, it's horrible.
Because of all the tourists.
Well, it's not. I don't even know. It's that and a bunch of other things. I was just gonna say real quick is about the Ortho-bros, though, to real touch on that real quick before I get distracted telling you funny stories.
Absolutely.
Marines, they're all boots, they're going to be hyped up. The weird mistake is, and I remember this when we received new people cry about like a billion things. I'm like, you ever consider like maybe this dude doesn't have a dad, and you're the only like male role model this dude has, and like he's already here, he's gone through basic training. Have you ever tried just helping him be a better Marine by chance? And they're like, what do you mean, dude? Like, you want me to like mentor them? Whoa! And I'm like, so look, I get 10 hard charging dudes who just want to like stack bodies, and I'm like, oh, cool. Now I have to teach them to control themselves. That's a good thing.
Yeah, and this is also why the Marine Corps has the biggest problem with, let's say, Marines going out and, sexually harassing the.
Whoa! Hold on. Pump the brakes. We got blamed for the Japan one, and it was a dude in the Navy. I'll never forget it because I was banned on base.
But to be fair, you guys are technically under the Navy. I'm just.
That's true. It's true. It's not a lie.
It's not a lie.
It's not a lie. It's the most true.
Yes, but what I will say is yes, the Marines do sometimes get blamed on that, but oftentimes and it's mostly because the Marines have had a history of it, not necessarily because every instance of it is. But the biggest and they cracked down on it hardcore a couple of years, like 6 or 7 years ago. I remember like you were not allowed to leave base.
No.
Like you were not allowed, like it was bad.
So
the
I actually
Air Force suffered in Korea because of the actions of some army guys in Seoul.
Really?
So these army guys in Seoul got into a big fisticuffs. They got in some fisticuffs and they just started fighting each other. And then I can't remember who was all fighting, but it was a bunch of army guys all like in a big brawl. And somehow locals got involved because just someone missed a punch and hit a local, and then the locals got involved. And so it turned into, no kidding, like a 250 person brawl in the middle of Seoul, which is like unheard of in Korea. Like you just never. It was national news. So the army cracked down on everyone, but then the joint chief, who is over all of the forces in Korea, said, well, it's not fair to crack down on only the army. And he's, of course, an army general. He's like, the Air Force has to suffer too. So now all the Air Force were on curfew too. And if you were out past, I think it was 12 o'clock, if they found you off base at past 12 o'clock, you were done.
So
you like hardcore, you are in huge doo-doo. Like, in you could get kicked out, right? And I lived off base, so I was lucky because I could just have an excuse. I'm like, I'm off base. I live off base, so I'm heading off base, or I'm heading onto base because I have an early morning shift. So I always had an excuse if they ever like stopped me and said, "Wait, you only have 5 minutes to get back on base?" I'm like, I actually live off base. They're like, okay, hurry up, But that's because my wife is Korean, so I was lucky that way. But most of the unfortunately, most of the guys, they would just get hammered. And I remember it caused so many problems. So everyone hated the Army for the longest time in the Air Force because of that. And the biggest problem that we had was that because of that policy, people would panic if there was only a few minutes left. Like there was this one time where this lieutenant was a little drunk and he was trying to get back on base, but there's traffic. Because everyone's trying to get back at the same time. And he had like 2 minutes left. And he kept on telling the taxi driver, go faster. And the taxi driver said, no, I'm in traffic. He said, go around them. He's like, no, I'm in traffic. And he starts choking out the taxi driver from behind because he's drunk and he doesn't know what he's doing. And the taxi driver gets out of his taxi, opens up the back door, drags this drunk lieutenant out, and beats the living crap out of this drunk guy. Lieutenant gets reported to the police. The police hand him over to the MPs, and this lieutenant gets his officer commission stripped from him. It's like it caused so many problems like that. And that's just one story of like a dozen I could give you that, I could go into. Go into all the different stories from a military time that were like just insane stories, insane things.
And you can't get them anywhere else. It's hard to explain, but like I'll give you one because we got the same curfews, and I speak Japanese, so I would get sent to Japan all the time. I think they thought it was a like elaborate joke. I don't know what it was, but I always tell people like the secret of getting along well in Japan. Like, how's that? I said it's easy. Eigo hanashimasu ka? Can you speak English? I said as soon as you ask them that, they'll be nice to you. I said, it's just rude when you barge into another person's building and start screaming at them in English, and they're just like, "Ugh, this stupid American won't even try."
Yeah.
And in Japan, obviously every culture is a little different. But I will say, and this is something interesting I want to point out, this is something relevant to the Ortho-bro thing, is that so what I'm seeing is people like, oh, all these American converts are coming in and they're so mean. I'm sorry to tell you, but Americans are rebellious. This is going to come as a bit of a shock, I know. Sit down, everybody. Americans tend to be rebellious, and young men tend to be rebellious and are searching for value. Now, the example I would use is every branch of the service had a hard time for about 4 years during something happened very crazy, something between 2020 and 2024. They were having a hard time enlisting people. I don't know what happened.
No,
But the Marine Corps was the only one that kept its numbers up because young men want hard works, and the Marine Corps is awful. So everyone wants to be part of it, and they get in it like, this is terrible. But my point is that young men are going to be rebellious. This is an American problem. Obviously, if you go to Japan, you go to Korea, you're going to have different problems with young men that you're getting on board. It's a cultural thing.
yes.
Most of the priests I've seen have been good about it, and I've been happy to hear, like, Father Ivanov's was spot on. Like, this is your job. The only thing I would have touched with him is I'd say, and it's a good thing to have young men who want to be here, who are just doofuses. I deal with doofuses at my church all the time. It's okay. I had to tell because I'm the one I look young like you do. So
Yeah.
and you know what I mean. So you end up with all these young guys who think you're one of them, and you're like, nah, dude, I didn't have internet in my house when I was a kid. Okay,
Yeah,
I didn't
exactly.
have a cell phone until I was 18. I know you guys all have cell phones. I don't. It's terrible. But I when you're dealing with that, and I'm curious in Korea. So like I have a lot of friends in Japan. I love Japan. I full disclosure, I almost married a Japanese woman. The only reason I didn't was because Japanese is a different culture, and I had a hard time wrapping my head around the idea of like
It's
having
hard.
to. Well, people don't understand. I'm like in Japan, like you'll get married to a woman, and then she'll be like, "Oh, we've had one kid, and we're never going to touch each other or kiss each other ever again." And it's very jarring, and I know people don't believe me when I tell them, I'm like, it's just a cultural thing. It's just not how Japan like
They're
Americans.
not
to
very
them,
touchy-feely at all.
no, I said Americans to them, like to me, I talk a lot. Her dad loved me. He was he was a Japanese SDF guy, and it was so funny. Fun story. I had to and I was interested in it, but I'm actually finding, and he's telling me now that like a lot of Japanese people are very interested in Orthodoxy.
They are.
And what I've heard is actually Hideo Kojima, the guy who made Metal Gear Solid, which you are in the age group to be Metal Gear Solid guy. So
Yep.
that game, the game director allegedly has been going to liturgy and stuff. And it's a really good thing to hear because to me, you look at Orthodoxy and you look at the Orient and specifically like Japan and Korea, which kind of still have a little bit more of a universal ethic to their culture. China doesn't really. China still has that kind of idea of like, well, if you're not Chinese, I can rip you off. I can do whatever I want to you because you're stupid and not Chinese. The Japanese don't, right? The Japanese are like, they're rude to you. That's the worst thing you'll get is they'll call you gaijin, which is a huge insult and no one grasps them. Like, it's an insult
Yeah,
not
they
to
don't.
call you by your name in Japanese. Do you understand that? That they know your name? I didn't know this. So I'm talking to like a colonel in the SDF and we're hanging out. I said, not the, and he goes, and he keeps sighing. I said, what's wrong? He goes, you keep saying you know my name.
Yeah, it's
I was like,
so
"What?"
Japanese, like Korean, is a very contextual language.
Yeah.
And so everything is based on context. So it can be very offensive if you don't make it clear, right?
Yeah.
What you're talking about, because you can stumble into a mistake. Korean tends to be a little bit more simple than Japanese because Japanese has so much.
Yeah.
That
I'm illiterate in Japanese.
Yeah. But what I will say is that the Japanese people are ripe for the harvest.
Yes.
Because a lot of young people in Japan are disillusioned with that whole culture of, oh, don't touch each other after marriage, right? Like, which was a very much a 80s and 90s Japanese culture thing. But now that's kind of shifted where young people are kind of going like, actually, I kind of want to be able to love my wife and care her and
have kids.
Yeah, and have kids. And so there's a shift in and it's the same thing's happening in Korea. There's a shift that's happening. I see it in real time here in Pyeongtaek, where I live in Pyeongtaek. There's a lot of working class like Zoomers and millennials moving into this area out of Seoul because they're so sick and tired of being like, I want a family. I want to actually afford a family. I don't want to live in Seoul where it's insanely impossible to afford children. And I think that is a ripe environment for Orthodoxy to spread. We opened up a new parish just recently in Korea. We are now, and we have the Moscow Patriarchate has now 3 parishes and 4 chapels. And chapels are part-time. They do reader services like once a month or something like that. And that's a good thing.
That's
The
a
biggest
great
problem
thing.
we're having, the biggest problem we have is we just don't have enough priests. We literally have we have 2 people that are in seminary right now. And they were previously reader and a deacon. So they're in seminary in Moscow right now. And then we have my bishop, who is at one of the services almost all the time. And then we have a hieropriest, a monk priest. And then we have a visiting priest. There's 2 Russian priests that visit. They rotate. So they'll come like every other month. So one will be here for like a month, then the other will come for a month, and then the other will come for a month. Kind of like that. I don't know if it's for a month. It might be like every 3 months for visa purposes, but that's all we have. And we have that means that my bishop is essentially at one of those parishes, and that's not including he's in charge of 2 dioceses. He's in charge of the Tuvan diocese in Russia, and he's over North Korea as well. So he's a very busy man, as you can imagine.
And he gets
That's Archbishop Theophan, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's got a very impressive story. I mean, one, being
Yes.
descended from the Siberian Koreans. So like I found it cool how like when he was getting sent to Korea, he actually had to learn Korean because the Siberian Korean dialect is apparently not interchangeable.
It's closer to North Korean Korean than South Korean Korean.
Okay.
It's still understandable, but there's a lot of words that are like adopted Russian words or adopted Japanese words that are just injected into language that South Korean doesn't have. And so yeah, he did have to like learn certain of the small differences, and so it took him some time to do that, but now he's starting to do a lot more translation work for the faith, so he's doing a lot of that recently.
Because I know he mastered Tuvan like intentionally, like he just went out to master it, and he was the one who's leading the translation work to stuff in Tuvan. So I grew up, ironically, with Tuvan throat singing, so that's why I was aware of Bishop Theophan. Yeah, it's just impressive though. The fact is, the number of Tuvans who've entered into the church is incomparable to.
So he told me. You want to know what he told me?
That
it is not, the Tuvan people now outnumber the Russians that attend church in Tuva.
I believe it. I totally believe it. Like when it's like what do you call it? Like it's we got so where I live right now. I mean the land I'm sitting on. Was fought between the Spanish and the Apache, then the Apache and the Comanche, but yeah, like so there are people I've met who are heavily Apache or heavy Comanche still in this parts of Texas, and it's amazing to me how like the Tuvans look exactly like them. It's crazy.
All of those Siberian tribes are very, very like they have a very like they look like if you took a Native American and like a Korean or a Han Chinese and just like smashed them together.
Yep.
Or a Mongolian and a Native American. They have a very, very distinct look. And then you add a little bit of a Russian admixture because that's happened over the generations now too. So, in fact, my daughter at parish, she'll get mixed up for like as a Yakuts or a Tuvan or Eastern Russian girl that has maybe an Asiatic admixture. She gets like mixed up for that all the time because she's half Korean. So she's got green eyes, reddish brown hair, pale skin. You know what I mean? So it's very common for that to happen. So man, Alex is still going, guys.
Yep, he won't stop. He won't stop. He's already condemned to the couch, so he's not going to stop. But yeah, I was just saying, like the reason why I want to visit Korea is not even to see Korea. I just want to meet Archbishop Theophan. Like the guy is awesome. At least I'm really impressed by the massive amount of translation work he's done. And
he's done so much, and he's busy. Like I said, I mean, he goes to North Korea probably at least once a year, but he tries to go at least 2 or 3 times a year just so that he can pastor the clergy there. Just so that he can be a spiritual bedrock for them. That's
Yeah.
and you know how many problems that brings in terms of him being a active person in South Korea and North Korea. You know how many
Oh,
few
yeah.
people can do that? There's almost no Koreans actually are able to regularly go back and
Yep.
forth between those two countries.
I just
He's
want
one
to
of the
say
only ones.
that you can't help but notice that Russia guaranteed had a part in that.
Oh
And
yeah,
when was the last
100%.
time as an American you heard, "Oh, we make sure our priests can get into this country because America stepped in and made sure our Christians are being taken care of"? When did
That
that
doesn't happen.
happen? It doesn't
Yep.
happen. How interesting.
Yeah, Nicholas may know the story already, but it's what do you call it? And it's fascinating how stuff happened with North Korea, because it was not the current one, Kim Jong Il, the second one, the second Kim. He
Yes.
was in Russia in 2002. He was there for some state visit, and then who was the Patriarch Alexei at the time? Alexei II, I think it was.
Yes.
Yeah, so he then informed Vladimir Putin, like, hey, we'd like to give Kim Jong Il a tour of a bunch of cathedrals around like the center there of Russia. And so
Putin made it happen.
yeah, and so the patriarch
Wow.
gave King Jamil a tour of a bunch of the cathedrals there in Russia, and King Jamil was impressed by the beauty of them, and he said he decided he wanted to have at least one in Seoul, not Seoul, Pyongyang,
Yeah.
and ironically, there were Orthodox Koreans more or less in hiding, essentially just not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
And the
existed.
catacombs, so to speak.
Yeah, that he drug out, and essentially, they meet at the cathedral. So
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
They also have a mission from my understanding. I haven't confirmed it, but apparently they have a mission that they operate as well.
Yep.
So there's people don't realize there's 4 clergy in North Korea, so they're way overstaffed.
yeah,
So this is why I have a lot of hope, and I really pray, like sincerely, deeply pray that North Korea and South Korea can open up more, that they can have more of those things. And here's the thing: Russia could be the vehicle in which that happens.
Yes.
So
Oh, I'm sorry.
America will only get in the way, frankly.
yes.
Trump, though, I will say this: this is another reason why I can never hate Trump fully,
Yeah.
because Trump actually tries to make
Yes.
things work with North Korea. If he was as belligerent of a warmonger as everyone tries to make him out to be in the most recent snafu that's been happening, if he was as belligerent as people make him out to be, why isn't he out there just trying to destroy North Korea? He didn't. He tries. He actually goes out of his way to try.
People don't understand this is how you read The Art of the Deal. It's not very hard, and he explains all this, where he goes, "What I do is I make fun of them. I say, little Kim Jong Un, he's so fat and little, he's so short," and then suddenly he's like, "He's the greatest guy, he's the best guy. I love this man," because
He's relational.
that's how he
'cause
does business.
Yeah.
Like, do you remember when they got together? He says, "Is everyone looking nice and thin?" And Kim Jong Un looks at him like, "What the?" Because he knows he's calling him fat. But the thing is, that's how you build relationships. I made this point. I'm sure you were so. As a Marine, it was a very big deal when the embassy got hit in Libya. And the
Yeah.
point I made to people at that time was, I said, we said, "You have these things," and Gaddafi said, "I do." And we go, "You're not allowed to have them." He goes, "Then take them away."
Yeah.
And then we go, "Now step down." He goes, "Okay." And he steps down, and then we kill him. I said, "Look, what that sends," I said, "I'm going to give you a hypothetical." I'm like, "You're Kim Jong Un. Really and truly, you're stuck in North Korea. It's probably not as great as you might think it is for him. He shot his uncle with an anti-aircraft gun. Things like that. Like, this is not a happy situation." Now he sits there and goes, "Wow, I could reunite Korea." "Oh wait, they'll throw me in prison and kill me."
Yeah.
So it's never going to happen. I said, so you have to have forgiveness. That's what makes Christians different than other people, is that we forgive people. And
I've always said this: if Kim Jong Un were to convert to Orthodoxy, half the nation of North Korea would convert with him. He would go down in history as a Constantine the Great.
Yeah, or like even like Olga, Saint Olga, of the
or Saint Vladimir, etc. He would be the enlightener of the Japanese or of the Korean people, right? That's how they would view him, right?
And they need it too.
They do, and the North Korean people are not as it's such a Western propaganda thing that they're just like these blindly they worship Kim Jong Un, right?
No.
Again, the reason they say worship in America is because they don't have a concept of veneration.
Well, I made this point to Jay Dyer one time. I said, the thing is that frustrates me is I'm a historian by trade. I said it's frustrating. I said because as a Rome, if you look at ancient Rome, I said it'd be unthinkable for anyone to say you don't like venerate your great grandfather. I said to a normal Roman citizen, not even a nobility, not a patrician, a pleb, had death masks of his great great grandfather on the wall. He knew their names, everything about these people. That's veneration. That's not worship. And it's not hard to figure out. Like, it's very odd. And I think, especially from the perspective, I think Father Stephen DeYoung was talking about on the last call, was like everyone had icons. Everyone had it. But there's a huge difference between me offering sacrifice and worship to an icon and me offering veneration. It's okay to bow before a king. You're allowed to do that. That's not worship, right?
Yep.
If he says, I am God, and you say, no, you're not, there's only one God, and you stand up, and then that's fine. It's very jarring. I will ask you, is in Korea, so in Japan, believe it or not, it's a lot of women are converting to Orthodoxy right now, which is a good thing to hear.
No, I literally have buddies here in Central Texas who go to like the Japanese church over in Japan to find wives. It's crazy.
And
Well, it's
actually, unironically, that does
I
happen.
don't blame them.
Yeah.
I was joking about it the other day. I said, if you're a young lady and you want to have a good life, just go to the Orthodox Church. There's 8 million men who are like all doing okay. They're like, oh, woman, she's not married. I'm like, and people make fun of me. I'm like, this is a concern for the church. It does matter if you're having a hard
Demographics
time.
matter. Yeah.
It does, and it sounds dumb, but if you're a young man and you're going to church, you want to find a wife there, don't you?
It's similar in Korea. So Korea, I would say it's disproportionately woman-oriented still. For the Greeks. For the Russians, I would say it's probably 50-50.
That's okay.
But the Russians are also far more ethnically mixed. Right. So there's a good portion of Russians, a good portion is Koreans, but then there's a ton of like diaspora from other countries that are Russian influenced. So like Uzbekistanis, Kazakhstanis, Mongolians that come to the Russian church, right? Chinese. Whereas with the what do you say? Whereas with the
Greeks or
the Greeks, that's what I meant. With the Greeks here in Korea, they tend to be much more heavily Korean because there was a significant portion of traditional Korean, I think I want to say it was either Anglicans or Methodists or Episcopalians or something like that, who were really pissed off about how liberal the Episcopalian church came, and they basically all like fled over to a couple like pastors and their flocks basically fled over to Orthodoxy, right?
Really?
This was a long time ago. I can't remember when. It was like 2 or 3 pastors. It wasn't like it was like 2 or 3 congregations, but it was enough to where they went from like 2 or 3 parishes to like 6, right?
Awesome.
And this happened a while ago, but there is a significant portion of females in those churches. In fact, I know the priests in the Greek church that are married, they have like 6 kids and half of them are girls. Like so it's like the if you want to be a son-in-law to a priest.
Oh gosh.
You know what I mean? I know for a fact at least 2 or 3 of them are like in their early 20s. So
Well, it's funny too because you see one of the comments from Skips96. He says that he knows all of his Middle Eastern relatives up to 10 names before. I'm like, for the record, it used to be that's how you introduced yourself. I'm Ahmed ibn Fahlan, ibn Rashid, ibn al-Abbas. You literally just name every dad you had, and you just keep going because for thousands of years it was just common knowledge that you venerated your parents.
There's a common joke and Hernandez J can confirm this that is very common in Latin American culture still to this day, where they get like Rodriguez, Hernandez, Guatemala's is like Perez, Jorge. It's just like a ridiculous amount of names for their last name. And they'll just like hyphenate it.
Yep. My mother has it written out, the full length name for me, but mine would be, the shorthand version is it's Blanco Hernandez Bruce. And I just know the last name is Bruce because the guy who founded our clan in Colombia on my mother's side, he was a Scotsman who had fled England and Scotland when the Union formed back in I forget when that was, 18th century or something, early 18th century. So he became a pirate in the New World and what do you call it, retired to Santa Marta. And that's how my mother's side of the family started up. So if you happen to be, running around in the Andes back on a backpacking trip, and you happen to see a wedding party where all the men are wearing, even though like half of them are mestizos, all the men are wearing kilts, and they happen to be, competing with each other in caber tossing, congratulations, you found my family.
Oh, geez.
So, yeah, it's crazy. Like there's like 3 Highland Pipers in all of Colombia, and my mom's family has all of them in speed dial, and they get all their business from my clan, and there's actually also a Fitzgerald Hispanic clan in Colombia as well. Yeah, ironically the other Colombian, or he's like, the other Colombian in my parish here in Central Texas is he's from the Fitzgerald clan. So it's somehow us Celtic Iberians ran into each other.
So my dream is like I hope at someday I hope that I have a son, and I would love to pass on my name and start a Blazing, because my last name is Blazing. I don't think people realize that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I was a runner in high school, so it was a terrible name to have as a runner. Blazing, live up to your name, run faster, So
I mean, how was boot camp, right?
That was terrible too. And also,
Private
can you imagine? No, I was it's Airman.
Airman Blazing. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I eat crayons. I don't think.
No, but yeah, Blazing was always like, but I want to have a son, and then him have like, or at least if preferably more than one son, but
hopefully.
if God willing,
repopulate Korea.
But I would love to have a son that like had like 10 children with my last name, and then just eventually like 100 years from now, when I'm long gone, there'll be like this small population of like Koreans that occasionally will have this like these features that are just like out of normal from your normal Korean, like just be like pasty white and
no back.
like, yeah, exactly. And occasionally you'll see them magically be like, where did this Blazing name come from? Well, 100 years ago there was this random random man. This random man, and this is where we get the Blazing name in Korea. Just like with their thick Korean accent, like someone explain.
And you got to pass down family traditions too, man. I mean, it's
got to keep it.
What do you call it? You got to throw the tourists for a loop, like, I mean, I still enjoy the fact that, every once in a while, somebody who's touring through Colombia is like, wait a minute, why are those mestizos and that one black dude with red hair, caber tossing? It's like, well, reasons. So
yeah. Well, it's kind of that funny like meme where like someone's like, if you're German and you're in Argentina, then we have to ask what your grandfather did during World War II.
I like to ask that question.
No, but it's like, for me, the traditions that I'm like really like care about with my family is frankly mostly Orthodoxy. But that being said, one of the small T traditions that I refuse to let go is like some of my family dishes that like I am going to pass those on from my mother to my daughter and to any of my children in the future, because I want them to keep that, that dream alive. Got to keep the dream alive, because like my mom makes the best mashed potatoes that you'll ever have anywhere. They're just freaking phenomenal. And it's like the same thing with like some of the baked goods that my mom can make. It's just insane, which is why I'm very excited when I go back to the States to visit my parents. They're opening up a restaurant because the IT field is like completely nuked, and my dad got laid off, and so they're like,
what do you mean? What do you mean?
And by the way, what's insane? They admitted that 70% of their workforce is getting outsourced to India. They just said, yeah, we're doing it. And the thing, what's even crazier is my dad got top marks for the last 20 years. He's never had a bad mark on his record ever. And on top of that, he was part of one of the top programming teams in the United States.
Doesn't matter.
Didn't matter. Still was outsourced.
My buddy Evgeny moved here from Russia. It's a very funny story, but he was dealing with it, and he said, why do you think they're outsourcing me? I said, to be frank with you, they're not just outsourcing it because you're cheaper. It's cheaper to outsource your job to an Indian. I said, you remember how you called me that one time and you said you felt bad because you were in sales and you felt like you're ripping someone off? He goes, yeah. I said, an Indian wouldn't feel bad about that. And he's like, that is terrible. I'm like, it's the truth. I said, because when you're telling me as an employer to fire, like I do military contracting a lot, and they say, oh, fire people or do this or turn and burn them is what the policy was literally just run them to the ground, put them on patrol, put them on deployment over and over and over until they quit. And then they'll go to another company or they'll just stop doing not like, so I was EOD. Point is, turn and burn, turn and burn, turn and burn. That's what they said. And I was always kind of like, that's immoral. You know what I mean? That's not right. That
Yeah,
they don't
you run.
care.
That's the thing. The thing in the Air Force and the military in general, and it was. I've heard it's gone better under Trump and Pete Hegseth. That's one thing that I'll say. Pete Hegseth has really improved morale massively.
Oh yeah.
But the biggest problem I have with the military generally and why it's not a good. It's just it's exhausting. Even as a contractor, when you're a
Mhm.
contractor, they run you ragged. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And the
Contract is
hours are
almost worse.
insane. Oh yeah, because
You
you're
get paid more.
you get paid more, and so you're expected to contractually be. And I haven't been able to find a contracting gig in forever because
Don't
the
feel bad. Me too.
Trump administration has cut all of those those
They're
jobs
gone.
and things.
They're gone.
They're gone. Yeah, they're gone. And which is I understand to some degree, but also on another level, I'm just like, you know what I mean?
Dude, if you
Yeah.
want something that's hilarious, so a buddy of mine who's a contractor, he's a contract sniper. So kind of like he's essentially bodyguard who specializes in counter sniping. But so he was stationed. He was out in Erbil when all this stuff with Iran went off, and they actually pulled him and the other contractors out, like all these mercs out, because the State Department didn't want to. They didn't want or they weren't allowed to pay both overtime and hazard pay at the same time. So I just found that to be hilarious. It's
Well, they find they've the biggest problem with contracting and the military is just the work-life balance is just completely
Oh yeah.
shot. It's completely shot. And this is why I'm actually so happy that Trump administration is leaning towards like closing down some of the overseas installations because they really were way overstretched with overseas installations.
It's true.
So.
And I think a lot of people with me, my problem was, well, it was nice for me because I could make a lot of money because I was in the Marine Corps in a weird time where because Marines are awful, I was coincidentally the guy who happened to be in the building with the highest ASVAB score. And they're like, how would you feel like going to SEER school? I'm like, where?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Would you speak Japanese? How do you feel about being in this recon unit? I'm like, but I'm not in recon. Like, you are now. Get off the boat. Like, it was an adventure for me. I absolutely loved it. But I could get contracting gigs. The last one I was really offered.
The worst one is when they have to torture you.
Oh yeah.
You have to go
the punji pit or where they put the bamboo sticks.
Oh, people like I don't know if people realize it, but like literally, you join the military, you get into certain career fields, you are obligated to be tortured.
Yeah.
like they're gonna torture you and they're gonna like put you through the ringer, and it is not fun.
No, it's not. I was just gonna say real quick though before I forget, the long and short of it is, obviously the contracting is drying up for everyone, so don't feel too bad. Like the last contract I was offered, someone tried to get me to go to Ukraine, and I told them, hell no. I was like, no.
Yeah,
Run.
I'm in IT, and the thing is that they just cut them all here in Korea. Like, there's no IT positions that are opening up. It's insane. Which is part of the reason why I actually do this on I do streaming it. That was what incentivized me, is because I needed to make some extra money on the side. Because it's just like I can't. I'm in the IT business, and I'm trying to find new clients, and it's like impossible to get anybody to like agree to do more work, and it's like this helps alleviate some of that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm literally doing work on the side of my computer here while we guys are talking, because it's like that's why I can do it so long, because I can just work. Luckily I can work from my computer. So.
No, I ended up having to get into state, so I went to college, got my master's degree during COOF. So I was supposed to do teaching and student teaching, and they're like, hey, you know how you're all the way through student teaching? I'm like, yeah. They're like, you have a good fun coming back and do it all over again. I'm like, if you're looking for work, or if you're looking to help the church, we need readers, and we need altar servers and things like that. And if you have a degree, please come over. Well, what they told me was, so I guess I guess I could ask your opinion on this, because I don't really have anyone else to ask. So I love my priest. My priest is like the greatest dude ever. Him and I get along. We love babies. I love kids. That's why I wanted to be an elementary teacher so bad, because I love kids. Like, I've never, people like, you've had your daughter and your son, and you never get angry at them. My ex-wife used to get mad. She's like, why aren't you mad at them? I said, they're kids. I love them. I love
Yeah.
kids. So like I still punish kids, but I've never been mad at a kid. I just love them.
Yeah.
Last service I went to, Father Michael's like, Tim, look at all the babies. And I'm like,
Yeah.
like, so I talked to, so he's great. It is an OCA church, but it's like a Russian OCA church.
Yeah.
I know, as an example, there was a gal who came one time who admitted to being a communist. They basically crowd surfed her out the door, and he's like, "No communist allowed."
Yeah.
It was the best.
Yeah.
Point is, so when I was deployed, where I kind of got my introduction to Orthodoxy was I was overseas, and you don't have church services, obviously, if you have anything at all. Where I was, some people did. I didn't even have hot water most of my deployments. I was on the airstrip there in Bagram, and all my missions were done at night, so we would always be sleeping during the day. And what ended up happening was I was around a lot of Serbs, because there's lots of when Sunday would come, they dragged me with them. And I used to joke, I said, the reason you got to be Orthodox is because in EU4, it's the best religion. It's the best. It's the most powerful one. That's why I always pick it. And they would joke and say I was accidentally Orthodox because they talked to me about theology or whatever. And I go,
Yeah.
well, and I want to make this clear to a lot of people who keep whining about the exclusivity claim. Without that claim, I never would have converted to Orthodoxy, because I looked at Orthodoxy and said, yeah, they're right about everything. But unless I confronted the fact that there was an exclusivity claim built into them being right about everything, I never would have taken the leap. My mistake is I'm old enough that I forget the internet's a thing. So I come home and I'm like, where would I even find a church? And then I'm like, oh, I can Google it. Like, I forget that. So I ended up, they would joke, and they always said, like, either when you become Serbian priest. And I'm like, I said, Buki, I thought, isn't there like a rule about priests who kill people? He goes, it is okay if you shoot back. And they were always joking with me and stuff. And I thought about it.
A little different.
I love Serbs. So like, the Remove Kebab guy is a personal hero of mine. I talked to him on, do y'all know who, all those old Serbian songs? There's the one like, the Panthers and Black Bomber and all those. Rocky Vulovic? Y'all don't know Rocky Vulovic?
Nope.
No, I don't remember.
Oh my gosh. I don't want to bore y'all, but I was around Serbs so much for so long that I just know all this stuff, okay? Off the top of my head. I met Rocky Vulovic, and it was the coolest thing ever. It was online, okay? It's like my moment of, I was so happy. Because he only appears on Facebook like once a year, and it is to make a funny boomer post and then leave and disappear. But because he wrote all these great songs. And this is like something that kind of woke me up to the world. Was I was sitting there going, and when I found out that America dropped more bombs on Serbia than they dropped in Afghanistan, and I was like, huh? And I looked it up, and sure enough, it was true.
Brutal.
And I
was
like,
brutal.
And I'm like, why the hell were we bombing Serbia like that? Why did we bomb the Bosnians? Like, no, they were special. What made them different than the Christian Serbs? What makes Croats different than Serbs? They both speak Serbian. It's like, well, the Croats are Catholic. And I'm like, huh? And kind of seeing that and confronting it as an American, of course, I think it's important as Orthodox, especially, not to get too much into like the crazy I hate America mindset. I think that it does happen. I'll be honest. That's the only Ortho-bro thing I would ever complain about, is I got told by a Cesare, a 14-year-old Persian boy, that I served the devil. And I was like, thanks, dude. I appreciate that. But that's very rare. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not crying about it. It was just kind of funny when he told me that. But
no,
my point is that, like, I know my priest and I get along real great. I haven't had really a chance to talk to him about it. I thought about, I would really like to be a priest one day. That would be something I would like to do. And it was something that was kind of a running gag for so many years. And every once in a while, Buki will call me on the phone and be like, when are you going to seminary? And I'm like, I'm not going to seminary. He's like, I like guns. And he goes, you can keep gun. Go to Serbian church.
Yeah. It's like here in Korea, for example, you can have guns. You just have to keep them at you have to store them on a gun range.
Okay, so that's not like Japan was weird as hell, because you could have any gun you wanted, but it had to be disassembled, and you couldn't have it put together. Parts weren't
Yeah.
illegal for a while. It was very jarring. You could never shoot them. I don't want to get Japanese gun laws are insane.
In Korea, they're pretty strict, but you can have them. You have to pass a test, obviously, and then you have to store them. You have to store them. So you can use them like for hunting. You can use them on the gun range, but then you have to keep them there. You're not allowed to have them in your house unless you get a special permit for a very specific reason, like your life is in danger at any moment, right? Or you have like people that want to kill you or something like that, right?
It's kind of jarring. You'd think Korea would be more interested in mass arming people, especially when North Korea is so close.
They do mass arm people. So every single male soldier has a weapon that's registered to them, but they keep them at their They have to keep them at their local police station. So when they're called up, they all the men go running over to their. Yep, all the Daewoo's, they all run over to their local police station and they get issued their weapon. Right?
What's funny is when I was in Korea for a little while, that was just, obviously it's part of a MU. You bounce between the couple. First off, everyone forgot that Koreans don't speak Japanese. I'm like, you are very racist. I'll give you a funny. Have you learned Korean, or are you just kind of picking it up as you go?
Picking up as I go, but I understand more than I speak. So like if my wife and my daughter are speaking, I can pick up mostly of what they're saying, but my speaking is not great. But I am taking lessons this summer, so
good.
As soon the really frustrating part is I'm so close to getting funding for this product that I'm working on, and it's going to be huge. And I have 2 Orthodox clients already interested in it. I just need that so I can afford to get these lessons. Because don't have money right now.
I want to hear you say it properly.
I'm sorry?
What is the service you offer?
Well, I do all kinds of things. I can do pretty much anything that is related to IT, but specifically my company, we do web dev, we do SEO, digital marketing, we do software development. We do anything that a company needs for their back-end, front-end development on that end. We do consultations. And then what I'm working on right now, this is on the side, is I'm working on an AI product that I think is going to really, really help transform the industry in a positive direction instead of this, let's build cloud data centers everywhere. And
yeah.
So I actually have 3 people that are interested in investing or purchasing the AI product I'm developing. It's a full stack hardware, software, something that I'm developing, and they're really interested in it, but I need to get the funding for the hardware portion because I have to develop that. I actually have to build it out, and I just don't have finances for it right now. But yeah, that's what I do right now is that. And to build a website, it's not like it's not super difficult. It just depends on it depends on how complicated they want the website, right? Like if they want it to do certain things and accomplish certain things, and they want it to be maximized in terms of its searchability, that takes a little bit more fine-tuning work. Like obviously anybody can go on to like AI nowadays and say, build me a website, and it'll just build them one. But it's like if you want it optimized is really where the nitty-gritty gets past. But that's what I do right now. Yeah.
No, I've had the same experience with developing stuff with AI, although now it's been more about business processes than actual code. But I was wondering, how much is it that you're looking to raise for your first initial seed?
Well, actually, just to get it off the ground, literally, just to get it off the ground, I need about 20,000, because that would get me and my software guy, because I can do some software, but I'm not. Like my area of expertise is network engineering. That's what that's my background is network engineering, and system administration and things like that, servers, etc. He's my tech guy. He's that would fund us for 3 months to get the prototype done. We have a buyer for the prototype already. Like they're interested in buying it from us. We just need to get them that prototype and then show it to them, right? And then they will purchase it from us. To fund us for a year of development, where we go from prototype to like 1.0, this is our first like full product. That's like 90. So, which isn't actually that much, believe it or not. So,
so you said, so 90 for the full year, 20,000 to get the prototype off the ground.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay. Reach out directly to me. Honestly, that'll be something that'll be interesting. I mean, I've done crazier things in the past.
Where do you message me on X? Do you have X?
I do not have X. That is intentional.
Shoot. That's
still have
fine.
you still have your Social Galactic?
I think so, but I haven't logged into it forever. You know what? Just email me. I'll just tell you my email. My business email is cblazing, BLASING. So
All right.
CBLASING at monarchcybersolutions.net.
All right. So C Blazing at what was it? What was the part again?
Let me just do. I'll say the name from the very beginning. So it's
Sure.
it's. Let me see if I can still remember my my military slang. Charlie, Bravo, Lima, Alpha,
Zebra.
Sierra. No,
Sierra.
not zebra. Sierra. My Indigo.
Indigo.
November Golf.
All right.
India, boy. What are you doing?
And
You
then-
got back in it's India. India.
We do
India.
indigo. We do indigo
really?
in the Air Force. Yes, in the Air Force we do indigo
Yep,
or
we'll
India.
put that
We
correct.
accept both. But
never heard
at
that.
monarchcybersolutions.net. monarchcybersolutions.net. Send me an email and then I'll check it before I close the
Right.
stream or before you leave, because I can pull up my email here on the side. Because it is like it does get me to the. And by the way, one of my first purchasers is an Orthodox PhD physicist.
Okay.
Actually, it's Father Paul Kong, if you're familiar with him. He's the only Rokor priest in Korea, but unfortunately, his parish is not opened right now because of funding, and he's hoping to get his business off the ground so that he can fund the parish completely, and so that he can actually start doing it again. So,
Fun
Got
enough,
it.
my
Alright.
priest.
I just sent it.
okay, let me see.
He sent you 20,000 already. 7
20,000, good lord! Like honestly, it would get us, because my goal is to get it done by the summer, but it would get us to that finish line. Where is this? Gotta make sure I check my spam. There it is. It went to spam. See, I knew it. Look safe.
Yep. Always.
Always goes to spam. Look safe. What are you doing? All right, we'll just
Not
reply.
safe. He's not
Yep.
safe. He's sending you money.
I'm gonna attach the things right away, right for you to take a look
Perfect.
at. I'll attach the documents because I have them. I have them in Korean and in English. Funny enough.
That'll work. I can read English, not so much Korean.
Can you read Korean too?
I can
You're
read
trying to read-
Spanish. I can read Portuguese.
Oh gosh, I had a friend of mine who was in the Legion, and every time we were in Paris, and I used to make fun of him because I say, "Hey, do you want to learn Italian too?" And he just gets so angry at me. I'm not learning another Latin language. I can't. My brain can't handle it.
No, yeah, there are some people like that. Well, but to be fair,
Can you-
if he goes to Italy, I've heard people from like Spain can mostly understand.
He could.
You know what I mean? They could get by.
He could speak French and Spanish. He could speak French and Portuguese. He said Portuguese is like if you're trying to speak Spanish and someone comes behind you and hits you over the head with a shovel, and then that's how you speak in Portuguese. Cubracao, supersao, and I'm like, I don't know anything you're saying.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I'm actually a little bit envious of native Portuguese speakers because if you speak Portuguese natively, you can already understand everything in Spanish, but it doesn't work the other way around.
No, it's weird, isn't it? So it's funny because I spoke a little French. My family is from Alsace-Lorraine, and I refuse to call it Alsace-Lorraine. I don't care. Suck it, Frenchies. I ain't doing it. The street signs are still in German. Okay, if you go to Alsace-Lotharingia, it's all the street signs are still in German. And my family member I had there, my cousin, I was like, hey, why doesn't Alsace-Lotharingia ever go back to Germany? And he goes, Tim, do you want to be the German part of France or the French part of Germany? And I sat there for a minute. And I said, I'd rather be the German part of France. Like, us too. Because they're going to make fun of us if we go back to them. I'm like, oh no.
Well, the thing about the French, okay. This is gonna be me ranting about French for a second. The thing about the French is that they're massively insufferable.
Insufferable.
They're
love 'em.
so pretentious about their language. It's obnoxious.
So we were at the time we were in Alsace and we were trying to find the train station, and my buddy's named Matt Philpott, and we see what appears to be like a French military guy, and I'm like, hey, real quick, ask him if he knows where the train station is, and he's like, scusi, and he starts speaking to him in French, francophone, And the guy looks at him and raises an eyebrow, like, huh? And I said, oh, was ist das deutsches Vaterland? Speakest deutsches Kaiserreich? And he looks at me, huh? And he raises an eyebrow at me, and I said, do you speak German or French? Because if you're here, you speak one of the two. Or English, which one? And he says, I speak all three. I just didn't want to respond with your barbarous accent.
I know, they're so insufferable.
I was like, dude, I love this man. Like, to me, I'm like, this is France. He's made it. You know, he's just standing here at the cappy, you know, the little circle caps they wear and everything. I love that man. He was not happy with me. I just started laughing so hard he just stormed away mad because
Yeah. Well,
but
you know,
it was awesome.
the thing about French, good Lord, I'm gonna get on. The thing about the French is that I respect their efforts to keep their language pure, but then in the same moment, like, they can't be bothered to preserve their country.
No,
It's like, we got to keep the French language. That is what French is French. It's like, oh my gosh, you guys, like, meanwhile, your nation is being literally, like, Paris is not even French anymore. You know what I
No,
mean? It's
Paris
like,
is- yeah,
last time, so one of the things, it's kind of the same with Italy. Like, you get all these people that are like, oh, I love being Italian, like, it's like, meanwhile,
do
like,
you
can't
though?
you can't walk through Rome without being accosted by an African migrant who's trying to sell
No.
you a bracelet. You know what I mean? Yeah, and then proceed to, like, freak out at you if you, like, say, no, I don't want this. You know what I mean?
On the
Like,
flip
it's
side
like,
of that, though, if you're not having kids, do you really love your country and your culture? You know what I mean?
I mean, there's truth to that, but I think a lot of young people, I do think around the world, a lot of young people are waking up to that. I do think that.
Yeah.
By the way, Jose, I sent you the slide decks. The slide decks. You can take a look at it and let me know what you think. You can even tell me on stream if you look at it. So.
Yep. No, I'm looking at it now, but I'm so exhausted, and I have to go to church in 5-6 hours.
Oh,
So,
lovely.
Yeah. But no, I'll definitely be going through it. This is awesome, you know, because I've been playing around with. Anyway, I've wanted myself to get in, you know, playing around more with, you know, LLMs that are, you know, not on the databases, or whatever you call them, the data centers.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm shooting for. So, I mean, I don't care about telling the people what it is. It's essentially it's an LLM that's open source but customized to the needs of each client. So rather than having just a generic model that everyone buys into and they use the data centers on, we customize each model for their needs, of their specific needs on their specific data, and then we secure it using hardware. And so your data doesn't leave your premises; it stays within your internal intranet, and you instead of pushing it out to the cloud. Well, the problem with the cloud is that a lot of these companies don't trust their data on the cloud. They don't trust Grok. They don't trust Claude. They don't trust these companies because they don't know if those server farms are going to get compromised at any point, if there's going to be a huge data leak. They want to preserve their sensitive company data and stuff like that, client information. Well, hospitals, for example, really could use this because they don't want client data or patient data going outside of their ability to secure it, right? So the whole concept of this is, hey, we can develop these things and train it for your specific needs, doing exactly what you want it to do. And the thing is that it's fully secured because it's in-house. Basically it's in-house AI, right? For companies trained by professionals that know how to do this. And I personally have a lot of experience with AI now. And I have at least 3 software engineering friends that are working on the software stack as we speak, on their spare time because we don't have funding. But yeah, so that is the goal. And I have had so many people interested, not just in America, but in Korea. And I have at least 2 Orthodox clients of some fairly substantial companies, and I also have a couple non-Orthodox companies that are interested in it as well. So, but I just got to get the prototype off the ground.
Need 7 figures.
No,
Gotta
I'll
get
definitely
those
have
7 figures, bro.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely have a hard answer for you on Sunday, because I'll definitely want to ask more about.
I got 2 other Orthodox guys that are interested in it too, so I might connect you with them. And if you guys want to go in on it together, kind of a thing, then that might be something that you guys are interested in. So
Yeah, because I'm definitely interested. It's I mean, granted, actually, I've done pretty decent with my what do you call it, non-traditional investing. So,
oh
ironically,
really? Yeah.
that's been my best performing thing in terms over
Yeah,
the last.
my goal with this, my dream for making money is not really I don't care. As long as I pay my bills, I can feed myself, I don't care, right? Like that's
Yep.
my that's my thing. I want to be able to buy land here in Korea and build a cathedral for the Russian church.
Mhm.
We don't
That's
have
the
one.
dream.
We rent, all of our spaces are rented right now. We don't have one. And so I really want to be able to purchase some land and just donate it to the church. That's what I want to do. Like
Yep.
I want to make enough money to do that. And that's the long-term vision. That's the long-term goal. And so and also I have I'm not going to say who I have this connection with, but I do have a connection. And they're interested in the product too. They've already told me this, as they've told me as much, to one of the largest chaebols in Korea, one of their subsidiary companies.
Okay.
It's through a connection that I know personally, and I trust this person emphatically. And they are already doing business with them, and then they want to basically utilize the product that I'm developing in tandem with theirs. So they're going to combine them. They want basically the AI to run their software for them, which is pretty easy to train. You can train an AI to run a software. It's not difficult. And then deploy it for their client. And their client is one of these chaebols. So we got some major connections here. It's just, we're so close. And it's like, it's always like just a hair away, because one of the big things for me is that I've had 2 clients this month. Like I would fund it myself, but I had 2 clients this month cancel payments. They basically just ghosted me.
Oh,
And I haven't been able to get a hold of them. They like literally ghosted me. I have so I'm out $2,000-$3,000 for this month. You know what I mean? It's just brutal, dude. And
Well,
it's
hey,
like
maybe-
so annoying.
maybe you'll find out a way. Because, like I said, I'd even be interested in. Well, as to be honest with you, I'm so sick. I've been doing nothing but overseas contracting. I've worked on average 17 hours a day, 6 days a week for the last 4 or 5 years, I guess. I'm just worn out. So I'm half interested just because I'm like, I'm with you. Like a lot of people, are like I wish I was a multimillionaire. I'm like, I don't really care. Like, dude, if I had a house and I could pay my bills and have 5 kids and be happy, like,
Boom.
like
I'm good.
I don't need $80 million to do that. Like, you know, is there something like, would I buy a PSG-1 sniper rifle? Yes, I would, but that's not the point.
I'll be your splurge for the year. You know what I mean?
I gotta have one. You know, Tim, why are you just wearing a green spandex suit or gray spandex suit and a bandana all the time? Like, leave me alone. But
Yeah.
I mean, I sent you a little bit as well, just over PayPal. But I'm super interested because, like I said,
that's appreciated.
You know, one thing I love about being Orthodox, you know, we care about each other, and it's
nepotism is so important. This is something I've been trying to hammer home. It's like we need to support each other.
Yes.
Like I have a buddy that wants to open up a food truck, and I'm like, dude, as soon as I have the money, like I will help you.
So the Vietnamese in the United States, if you're familiar, you know, why is it outside every single military base there's a Vietnamese barbershop?
Oh, because they're nepotism.
And it's beautiful. People are like, it's awful. This is one of those things that people say about, like, you didn't know sharing and doing stuff. I said, you know what? I'm just angry because I can't do it. Like, I want to be able to go into a bank and get a 0% finance loan. Okay, that's me. That's me. That's literally me. I had a buddy of mine when I needed to get a new car, and he was he works at a car dealership, and I said, hey man, can I get I was interested in getting a car, and he's like, oh cool, I'll sell it to you at dealer value. And I'm like, why? He said, because you're Orthodox and I'm Orthodox. And I was like, that's good. We should be helping each other, because if we don't help each other, the world isn't going to help us. You know what I mean? If you want,
no, the world's against us.
And
the world wants to see us destroyed. 100%.
Especially when it comes to culture. To me, I think it's very important, and this is something I've been kind of mulling in my head about. I've been thinking about getting more into it. I just kind of, again, to be honest with you, like, this kind of goes back to what I was trying to talk about earlier, is like, I'm terrified of asking my priest about certain things, only because right now it's like Schrodinger's question. If I don't ask, it's not no, because I haven't done it, right? But if I ask and he says no, or don't, then it's like, oh no, I'm a,
No.
you know,
Well, this is what I say. Like, if you're interested in like doing something like that, right? You just have to ask and you have to go and do it. Like
going to recruit.
here's the thing I always tell people, like people that are interested in like living abroad, because I get this question a lot. They're like, "Oh,
How do I get to Korea, man?
Yeah, well, yeah. People ask me, or any country. Like it's really the same for any country. I always tell them, it's like, listen, you try and find some work, any work to get a foot in the door. You learn the language, and then you can get into other industries. But worst case scenario, you get your foot in the door, you get this kind of low paying job that's just kind of like a good starter job, and you just get to experience another country for a year. Worst case scenario, you pack your
And you
bags
bounce
and you
back.
fly back.
Yep. As long as you don't have kids or anything.
Yeah, and even if you have kids, I always tell people, if you're married and you don't have any kids, or if you even have like 1 or 2 kids, it's not that crazy expensive, believe it or not. If
Yeah,
both
depending
of
on where
you
you
are,
go.
yeah, it just depends where you go. And I say, like, you just gotta, like, you gotta figure it out. And believe it or not, most of the world is not that expensive. Like, unless you're going to Western Europe or America, most of the rest of the world is relatively affordable to live in.
Well, depending on where at, the example I always use, I love Japan. I have a soft spot in my heart for Japan. Like I adore Japan. It's a running gag is I'm going to become the shogun of Japan when they go to war with China. It's a joke, of course, it's never going to happen. But what was I going to say is that it's one thing I always try and remind people of. Like, do you ever see the movie Bloodsport?
Yeah.
Remember when he says, "You are not Japanese. You are not a Tanaka."
Yeah.
Like it's I love Japan, but it's like that's what people understand. Like, you move to Japan, there's always advice I give them. I'm like, you're not Japanese, but
You will
it's
never be
beautiful.
Japanese.
It's beautiful that if you respect their culture, they'll be nice to you. But like I got friends in Ranger.
Yeah, and but here's the one thing I'll say is, like, if let's say you get married to a Japanese girl, you have Japanese kids or whatever, and your children will be Japanese. You will never be Japanese.
You will never be Japanese. And I said, if you're okay with that, go to Japan and enjoy it, right? What happens a lot is women will go to Japan and they think it's going to be like this thing where they get all these dudes coming all over them, and they find out, one, they all think you're fat.
Oh, yeah.
And I tell women, and I know women who aren't fat who are great ladies, and they're like, I'm going to Japan. And I'm like, it's not like it is for men. I'm tall. I go to Japan and I just, oh, you're so tall. Wow. Okay, desu. I'm like, hi, okay, desu. No. And I'm not really that tall, but I am there. But but with women, I'm like, even if you're a healthy weight, which again, for women's like 25% BMI is considered like perfectly within
you're still big in Japan and in Korea.
You're not just big, you're fat. They're like, what's this fat woman doing eating my suit? Like, and I tell them, like, it's not, and the culture's different and romantic stuff. I'm like, you don't understand. They don't give you Valentine's gifts. You give them Valentine's gifts. That's why people watch an anime and they're like, why is the dude angry his girl didn't buy him a gift? I'm like, because in Japan he does. I said it's weird, and that's why
it's a lot of opposite things that happen there. And don't get me wrong, the men are expected to do certain things for the women too, but there's like this mutual, like, there's this like mutualness in it. And it's same thing in Korea. In Korea they have they have certain days, like holidays. Like Valentine's Day is not the guy treats the girl. It's both parties are expected to get each other something, right? I mean, so it's just like in Asia, it's just a very different thing. And so, like, I always tell people, like, if you do end up trying to come to Asia, it's fine. You'll probably enjoy it, but you have to go in with the right expectations. And the same thing if you move to Serbia, if you move to Romania, if you move to Russia, there's expectations that you have to have a good understanding of it before you go.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can do that, and if you can handle that, then you'll be fine. But if you can't do that and you can't handle it,
and be okay with learning. Yeah. It's not a big deal. Like I always tell people, sumimasen, excuse me. That's all you have to do is say in Japanese. Sumimasen, Nihongo, I only speak a little Japanese. Bam! And they know what's going on.
In Korean, it's 안녕하세요. 영어로 하실 수 있습니까? Do you speak English?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there you go. And people respect that because you're in their country, you respect their culture and their history. And it's like, we baptize cultures in Orthodoxy. And that's what I want. Like, I always tell people, like, you don't know, like, my ex-wife hated Japan. And I was always like, I love Japan. You know what I mean? And she's like, why do you like Japan? They're all weirdos. I'm like, no, they're not. Japan's a good culture. I'm like, the example I give to her is, I'm like, the Japanese, you know, they were almost, I think, 30% Christian with when Tokugawa took control of Japan and killed them all and drove them underground. It was really bad. I said, in no other country in the East, the Far East, adapted to Christianity as quickly as the Japanese did, right?
There's one, the Philippines.
Oh, that's
Well,
true.
Yeah.
And one other, I would say, actually, Korea, Pyeongtaek was considered the Jerusalem of the East at one point.
Oh, why didn't America nuke it? Usually, America nukes any city. They're like, oh, there's lots of Christians there. I better
Well,
drop a nuke.
they kind of did nuke it by they kind of did nuke it because Kim Jong Sung was actually not anti-Christian. He was actually a Presbyterian pastor's son.
Yep.
Really? Well,
Yes.
what's funny is when you look at like, so when I was in college and I had the boomer communist guy teaching class, and he insisted that Chiang Kai-shek was called Cash My Check. I said, no, Chiang Kai-shek was based, and you're wrong, and you don't know what you're talking about. And I argued this with him in class over and over. He had no idea anything about the Chinese.
Kim Il-sung, and by the way, I want to say this too. Kim Il-sung was not communist.
Correct.
Juche is not communism.
Yep.
It is a distinct political philosophy that is completely distinct from Marxism. There might be certain aspects of it, and like aesthetically, that was influenced by the Soviet Union, but it is a very distinct ideology. Very distinct.
This is the
Yeah,
same
I read that Juche document. It was fascinating to read, and it's amazing how much of it rings with like what I've read of Joseon, especially like Admiral Yi's diaries, and just the experience of how the royal court of Korea actually functioned.
Yes.
The Kim family is very much a continuation of Joseon.
Well, what's weird too, and I want to point this out, and I always tell people this about China and Korea specifically. I'm like, remember Admiral Yi got arrested 4 or 5 times in the war for treason for the crime of checks notes. He's good at his job.
Yep.
Why?
Well, yeah, because he embarrassed the court.
Well,
because they weren't doing a good job.
And this is the thing about it that I always tell people. I'm like, you have to remember that East Asia and Korea today is tough as nails. Now, people don't grasp this. I said that was the threat I would tell Marines if they screwed up in Korea. I'm like, I'll put you with the Rock Marines, and they're like, stop it! Don't even joke about that, because they know if you're with the Rock Marines, they're tough as nails. It was well known in Vietnam that you didn't mess with floppy hats, which were Australians. Or
you don't mess with them.
And you don't want to mess with the Koreans either, because they got mean. Because they weren't a huge fan of you, Kami. But here's the thing: when you look at, for instance, even in Ho Chi Minh, for that matter, when you look at what we did with specifically in like with Admiral Yi, you look at this in China. When you look at Chinese history, I always try and explain to people, like, it's not, you can't look at it in presentism. A good example of this, if you're really like Dynasty Warriors, all the characters in there that are portrayed as like awful human beings were not really that bad, but they were military men at heart. So they come up and all these eunuchs are like doing this stupid stuff. And like, get away from me. I don't want to listen to your nonsense. We got to save our country. That's a terrible monster in Chinese culture, because he was walking in front of the emperor instead of trotting. What an animal. He's wearing his shoes inside the house. Like, that is, to China, that's a big deal. I'm like, Admiral Yi was hated because he did a good job. I'm like, they didn't have this culture like Americans do, or the West does in general. Russia kind of gets the flack for this too. Like, the Russian military was good all the way into the First World War. And I'll have you know, the only reason why people think they did bad in World War I was because they were fighting the greatest German generals. August von Mackensen and all the best were on the eastern side.
And by the way, one thing to say also is that the Russians improved dramatically when Tsar Nicholas went on the front line.
Correct.
Yeah, Tsar Nicholas was a hero. I won't hear it.
Completely stabilized the line, and he smashed the Austrians completely.
Yeah, that was in the Brusilov offensive, and he actually
and the Ottomans too, by the way.
The Ottomans were just a stomp for the Russians the whole time. The point is, though, is like, this is the same argument I give people. I'm like, look, there's this Western notion that these stupid Eastern and European Orthodox people are bad at war. I'll tell you one thing that I'll give them this criticism. They don't ever make it, so I'll share it with you guys because it's private. It's Orthodox private, okay? I don't know why Orthodox people like shooting their monarchs so much. It's a very odd thing, but you'll remember the king of Serbia had his house surrounded by dudes with machine guns, and they shot his house and killed him right before World War I. Yeah. Why? And you see the same thing when the Mongolians invaded. It was because of a lot of subversive ideology in those places, and you'll actually find out that a lot of them were Germanic. They were Serbs, but they somehow had a connection to the Germans. The Germans were very subversive, believe it or not, even prior to that. I gotta put some defense. Okay, so I'm a Carolingian by blood, so I got to defend my family a little bit here and say,
Wait,
okay,
who
hold on.
isn't a Carolingian by blood? That's the better question.
So my family
That's
my
like
family was
saying someone from
actually
Asia isn't related to
on.
Genghis Khan.
my family was actually nobility in the 1600s. We left because during the 30 Years' War, the land that we owned had no peasants left. It turns out that when 30% of the population of the Holy Roman Empire dies, you got to get out of there. And so my family was really wealthy for a long time, and then we got poor after the Civil War. Apparently, the North took all our money. Who knew? But point is, what I wanted to say was, but even when you look at the Far East in the invasions of the Mongolians, though, you see the same problem, and the Wallachians as well. When you see, as an example, Vlad Tepes, Voivode Draculesti, he didn't do anything wrong. He's a perfect hero who did nothing wrong. And let the record show, he got betrayed by his own nobles who were selling their people out into Ottoman slavery. Why were you guys helping? Why were you? But remember, the Orthodox were the ones who team up with the Muslims. I'm like, get out of here, dude. There's lots of Catholics and traitors in his court at that time. I think that's something people thought. But
well,
I don't.
What do you call it? I wanted to talk a bit on that. Although if we're gonna do the whole family was royalty, I mean, the fifth cousin of Spain is sorry, the current king of Spain is my fifth cousin, but my great great grandpa was the 10th son, and so you don't get any lands or titles or castles or anything. So he got shunted off to the New World.
Yeah, that's very common.
Yeah, that's how I'm like very. I actually am, not distantly related to not just the king of Spain, but like Pavlos of Greece. As well as the kings of or the Queen Margaret of Denmark, and I forget who the king of Norway or queen of Norway is.
Because they're all Germans.
One of them. But yeah, it's funny. But the what do you call it? What was I going to talk about? I forgot. It's late. I'm exhausted.
Yeah,
I want to hear.
Well, one thing to add. Maybe this will jog your memory. One thing to add about Tsar Nicholas II and the Russians as well. The only reason that they lost the Bolshevik Civil War, the Civil War in Russia, was simply because maybe I'm over reducing it, but I think that this was probably the thing that broke the camel's back, was that the United States joined World War I and artificially extended how long the war was going to go.
I could go further than that.
They could have sued for peace. They were all, because Tsar Nicholas was actively advocating for suing for peace and for a negotiated truce, not for total and complete surrender, which I'd also point out others wanted.
That when they sent Lenin back to Russia, Kaiser Wilhelm was really close friends with Tsar Nicholas II. He had no intention of letting them become communist. He thought, okay, they'll have a little spat. Maybe he causes a rabble-rouser. The moment the revolution happened, it was already in place that the German high command was like, okay, once World War I's over, we're going to go to Russia. We're going to take care of this problem. We're going to clean up our mess, and then we'll go home. It was not like, we know for a fact the United States decision to get involved in World War I, that is just a weird example of my kids. Like I always joke with my buddy Evgeny. I said, I don't know why Russia. Well, I know why they threw their lot in with France and Britain, and it goes back to something Jay Dyer would know a lot more about, which is like international banking structures and stuff like that. They owed all this money because Britain gave Japan a free navy to beat them in a war, which for the record, I'll have you know, Russia did not do that bad in. Okay, Russia did okay. Russia gets a lot of flack, and I'm like, I'll let you give them flack, like, when they did do bad. But Russia's actual performance, I think this is the problem with Russia, is like, you're looking at Japan, you're looking at Germany. These are two of the most mighty military powers forever. Even today, like when I was deployed overseas, it was a running gag was if you're deployed and you're with KSK, the German KSK, I was always happy with them. That's why they call me Hans. So like, Hans is German, he stays with us, like, I can get along with them because they're still meat eaters. Dude, dealing with Brits, I was like, this is like dealing with herbivores, dude. I can't stand this. Get me away from these people.
The British Army was always a joke, except for the brief period of Lord Wellington. And Wellington was unusual. He was the only successful army general who actually turned the British into a serious land force.
And even he hated his own army.
Yep.
Well, the
No.
British were all the British were always a naval power.
I actually
And
looked into it too, because it relates to them being a naval power. Because you know how, like, Britain's famous for the press gangs and everything that they had.
Yeah.
So I decided to look into the Spanish Armada to see how, because the Spanish Armada was massive, when it was ruling the waves before the British took over. And I wanted to look into, like, all right, did Spain have stuff like press gangs? And I found out that in its entire history, throughout the whole imperial period, the entire Spanish Navy was volunteer.
So I just want to respond to this because Leo was talking about how Russia was pretty bad against Georgia. Yes, there were cases in which the Russian government specifically was not super great for the Georgians. I think a lot of those old wounds have healed over time because actually the Patriarch of Georgia and the Patriarch of Russia actually are in very close ideological agreement. And I think the Russians kind of acknowledge that they went too far in those areas. So I mean, yeah, but that's again, history isn't always kind, and there's always issues that arise between jurisdictions. And the Georgians didn't deserve what happened to them, but also neither did the Russians deserve what happened to them.
I mean, frankly, if you're looking at the history of the Caucasus, like the only Caucasus people who actually have, I'd say, a justifiable axe to grind with the Russians are the Circassians. Outside of them, like everybody else, like the Russian relations with, take your pick, Georgian, English, what are they called, Chechen, etc. Overall, a whole lot more positive. I mean, if you want a comparison of what Russian, Georgian, or Russian, English relations could have been like when Russia was advancing towards the Caucasus to compete with the Iranians, and the Ottomans. You can just look at the relationship of the United States with the Apache or the Cheyenne or the Comanche. What do you call it? I mean, when it comes to dealing with minorities or neighboring small countries, nobody has a worse track record than the United States. And frankly, lucky that it did not have the U.S. as an ally.
Yeah, Nick. I mean, he means the Russian Empire is starting from 1810 to the Soviets. Yeah, I mean, again, mixed history there. It wasn't always great, and sometimes the sins of your forefathers you have to pay for. Saint Tsar Nicholas II was certainly not a fan of what happened. He was a very pious man, and he actually did a lot to try and rebuild the church, both in Georgia and elsewhere, et cetera, et cetera. So it wasn't a perfect situation, but they did try. And Saint Tsar Nicholas II there's a reason he's a saint, right? He's actually the reason why there was so much of missionary and evangelistic efforts in America, but also throughout the Central Asia. So that's important to keep note. That being said, guys, Alex never ended his stream. He's gonna beat me because I got to get going, and my wife expects me to come out here and do stuff. So,
well, I sent you something over PayPal, and feel free to kick me anything you want me to look at. I'll try and see what I can raise for you.
Email me at the same email. Do you have it?
Let me write it down real quick. Oh, I did on PayPal. Hold on, let me write down your email one more time. You're like, silence, baby.
Yeah, my wife is calling my name. So it's gonna be CBLASING.
Oh, C Blazing. Okay.
Yep, at monarchcybersolutions.net. I'll forward you, if you send me just a email saying hello, I'll send you a response with the documents, and you can take a look at them.
I'll reach out to a couple friends too and see what we can raise for you, man. Because hopefully, I kind of wish we could have talked about this one more. We have to do it sometime. Orthodox people need to start promoting more Orthodox businesses and more stuff, and really start pushing the idea of, like, we need to take over the culture. That's the reality.
Yeah, man. Email me and I'll send. And same, Jose. Let me know. Obviously, after Sunday, you can just send me a message, and we'll schedule a call to actually talk on the phone or something like that. All right.
Perfect.
Because I have a US based number, so I can call US numbers. I have a Google Voice, so.
That'll work.
I hope so. You're like, I can't call on Skype. It's too hard to figure out.
Oh, okay. But anyways, God bless you guys. And I thought I was going to be able to outlast Alex, but that just seemed like I knew when Father Stephen called in. I'm like, dang it!
He has an axe to grind. He's still angry that he lost. He's like, no, I want the longest stream. He tried to get Cleve to do it. And Cleve's like, no way, dude.
No way. So no, I appreciate Father Stephen, so I'm glad that he went there. But anyways, guys, God bless you. Have a wonderful day.